Have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff, even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you've left me no choice. I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is really serious, and lately you seem to really not care. I've been there for you since day one, and I know you think I'm going to keep ticking. But no, my friend, I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to the good times, when we were more active and ate more healthy foods, and you checked on me every once in a while? Is that too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, everyone. Let's all stop what we're doing right now and take a moment. That felt good, huh? Just like that, we had a nice special sort of moment together. Of course, they don't all need to be quiet moments to be special. They could be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. Sounds like somebody agrees. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Today, call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
It's Meals on Wheels. 1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do. Tell the world I see with an emoji to stop the bullies.
Know someone who's being bullied online? Send the witness emoji. It looks like an eye in a speech bubble, and it's in the symbol section near the clocks in your phone. You'll let the world know it isn't cool, and you'll let your friend know you care. Learn more about the witness emoji at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What are you talking about?
No, it's not him. There is only one more. There is only one more. That's it. One more. No!
They saw your team put up zero effort.
Wake up!
Remember in the old days, they used to have oxygen for them. Where's the oxygen?
Play like absolute just garbage.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Yay!
Man, can you keep it down? I'm trying to introduce here. With Errol Marks and Speedy Beatty.
You're not even a has-been. You're a never was. You're a never was. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday. It was a little snowy, flurrying here in New York. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, the speedster himself. He's winded. He's great. He's Speedy Petey. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth, which airs every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. All you have to do to check out all our local listings from all our shows is you go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Speeder, what's up, man?
I'm not winded. I'm not breathing heavily. So the accusations there.
You were upset before the show.
A little false. I was busy. Yeah,
and upset.
Well, maybe, but that's another thing. But I'm not.
But you were winded.
I'm not winded.
It winded you out.
No, I'm not huffing and puffing.
Could I,
like you said,
wound you up like one of those toys? Could I do that?
You probably could.
You're like a Jack in a Box. You know.
We'll go with that.
I wonder, could you give me like emotion, like if you popped out of a Jack in a Box? Like,
No,
we'll call it the
this-
speedster.
This room
box.
is not inclined for that.
We'll call it the speedster box.
This room's not inclined for that.
Why?
Because I'm in a tight space.
I could see you as a Jack in a Box.
Okay, just not in this room.
I'm just saying, you would actually look like a pretty
a
cool Jack in a Box.
Pretty tight space. So
I'm just
that would not be worth the risk.
Well, you definitely are in a tight space. You know, you like tight spaces, right?
I hate them. I'm just saying it would be hard to do
Are you
that kind of
claustrophobic,
action. No,
Speedy?
I'm not. But I'm saying like that kind of action would be hard to judge.
Actions speak louder than words, just so you know.
Okay.
At 8:30, we'll be talking to founder of Pro Football Guru, Russell Baxter. He's been on our show. Great football mind. Excited to have him on a show again. At 9 o'clock, we will be talking to our friend, my friend, one of my mentors. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking to Nationals radio play-by-play broadcaster, Charlie Slows. Yes, he will be on the show every single offseason. He comes on the show. We love Charlie on the show. He knows all about baseball. He's got the inside scoop with Soto, so we're very excited to have Charlie on the show. Oh, our number one topic, Juan Soto traded officially to the New York Yankees. Brian Cashman says he wants him to be a Yankee for life. Oh, by the way, be viewed as the Mecca of baseball. He wants the Yankees to be viewed and him to be viewed here in New York as the Mecca of baseball. Oh, yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking forward to that. Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama make the college football playoff. I'm going to tell you why the Florida State Seminoles were absolutely robbed. And I'm going to get into that. That's something I wanted to wait until tonight after that wonderful Jabba Chamberlain interview yesterday. Hour and a half with Jabba on the show. Fantastic. Roger Goodell says he wants to ban the Eagles' tush push play for next season. I don't understand this, and we will get into that. We didn't get into that. Rex Ryan takes shots at Bill Belichick, says that the Patriot way is an exhausting way. So he's right. The Thunder point guard Josh Giddey under investigation for a relationship with a 16-year-old girl. And by the way, we've been pushing this subject off for the last 2 weeks. We will get into the whole Josh Giddey thing because I know everybody's like, you've been talking about the Josh Giddey thing and you haven't mentioned anything about Josh Giddey. So we will get into that. Let's parlay, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, Wes is back with Derek, a.k.a. Mountaineer himself, and Week 14 NFL picks. So let's get into it. The big story, the New York Yankees land the big left-handed slugger. Do I like this trade? I'm going to tell you why I don't. The Juan Soto trade to the Yankees was made officially Wednesday night, and despite medical questions, it ended up being the same players traded. Brian Cashman said he has yet to have any contract negotiations with Juan Soto and understands that having Soto could be a short-term situation. Soto turned down a 15-year, $440 million contract with the Nationals in 2022 and was reluctant to negotiate with the Padres throughout last season. Cashman also said it is his goal for the Yankees to be viewed as the Mecca of baseball to get Soto and other players to want to sign long-term deals with this franchise. Cashman said that the Yankees were more urgent for a big move after finishing 82-80 last season and having the worst offensive season in over 30 years. Juan Soto, ladies and gentlemen. And I sit here, and I like Juan Soto. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. I don't think Juan Soto isn't a great player. He's a top 5 player right now in the league. He's going to receive at least $500 million after he becomes available next season. I will say this. Beware of bringing in Juan Soto because he's going to have a fantastic year. He's going to be playing in a very small ballpark. It's a pull-hitting ballpark for left-handers. This is a guy that can hit 45, 50 home runs this year. He can average between 125 and 140 RBIs this year if he plays 155 or 158 games out of 162. If you sit here as a Yankee fan and you look at the pieces they traded. Now, we don't know what these prospects are going to be. We don't know what Thorpe is going to be. We don't know what the other two prospects that they're putting into the trade. We don't know what these guys are going to turn out to be. What we do know is Juan Soto's a great player. And we understand the talent that he puts in the middle of this lineup for the New York Yankees. The Yankees for years have been craving a power-hitting left-handed bat. They finally bring one in Soto. They bring in Verdugo, another left-handed bat. He doesn't hit very good against lefties, but hey, and you added Grisham. I'm not going to be ecstatic adding him as a piece. The Yankees took him on as a contract. That's what they did. You sit here right now and you wonder, what are the Yankees going to do if Juan Soto gets hurt this year? How does this work? You traded Michael King, who I think is going to be a fantastic pitcher for the Padres. Maybe they re-sign him. Maybe they don't re-sign him in the offseason next year. He is a free agent. Signed a one-year deal with the Yankees. Maybe that happens. Maybe the Yankees have a chance to bring back Michael King. I doubt it because I think they'll extend him. He's not going to be that expensive unless they wait until next year. And if he has a good season as a starter, as a closer, I don't know what they're going to do with Michael King. Thorpe was a big, young, talented player in their farm system. And the Yankees believed that they were going to call him up sometime this year to be a part of this rotation. They lose Thorpe. Thorpe is heading to the Padres. And I'll say this about Yankee prospects. A lot of them that the Yankees trade away that are top prospects never amount to anything. But what happens if Thorpe does? What happens if Michael King becomes a Cy Young pitcher like I believe he could be? And Juan Soto's here for 1 year. He has a great year. The Yankees go to the World Series, but don't win. Is it a good trade? If Juan Soto decides, hey, you know what? I want to play for the Mets next year. I want to play with Lindor. He's one of my boys. We know Steve Cohen's going to open up his pockets. Now, we do know that Steve Cohen last year could have went after Aaron Judge. But because he has a great relationship with Hal Steinbrenner, he would not jump into that sweepstake what could have landed Aaron Judge. So you sit here, would he jump into the Soto sweepstakes if he becomes available, which he will after this coming year? That's a question that only Brian Cashman knows. And Brian Cashman wants to make sure that the Yankees are the mecca of baseball. They've been the mecca of baseball. They haven't won a championship since 2009. This is the longest drought for the New York Yankees. And when we had Job on the show yesterday, he believes that Brian Cashman should not be here anymore. But I still think Brian Cashman is one of the top 3, top 4 executives. How many teams do you know, and I'll say it again, that have had 35 consecutive years of winning baseball? How about this? 35 consecutive years of winning. How many teams in professional sports have ever done that? The answer, only the Yankees. You sit here, and then you look at everything that Brian Cashman said today, and they're going to introduce Juan Soto probably on Monday or Tuesday. They're going to wait over the weekend. And maybe they make another move. Maybe you'll hear at the end of this week Yamamoto or Ohtani. I did hear that Ohtani could be signed by one of these teams that are interested in him no later by early next week. So I said this. Once Soto drops, did I not say that, Speedy? When Soto drops and he gets traded, everything's going to start to drop. I thought it was going to be after the new year. That's what usually happens. But I think the Yankees didn't waste any time because they didn't want to see the Giants jump in. They didn't want to see any of these other teams jump in and try to steal Soto from them. But you sit here, and I'm sitting here right now, and I'm wondering what the Yankees are thinking. You see, and the understanding of where the Yankees are as an organization right now. Are the Yankees right now with Juan Soto a championship team? Now, as far as their lineup is concerned, they're still wondering what they're going to do at third base. I've heard Brian Cashman say DJ LeMahieu will be their starting third baseman this year. DJ has not been healthy really for the last 3 years. He signed an $80 million extension. What was it? During COVID, everybody thought it was a really good contract for the New York Yankees. And ever since that contract, he's been a shell of himself. This guy won a batting title. This guy was one of the best hitters in baseball for the 2 or 3 years that he was with the Yankees before he extended. And now you look at what they're going to do with Gleyber Torres. Are they going to re-sign Gleyber Torres? But if they re-sign the Gleyber Torres, they're not going to be able to extend a contract for Juan Soto. I don't know where the Yankees think they're going to have this money. Now, Yamamoto is a guy that the Yankees really, really want. He's a guy that the Yankees have been going for the last 2 years. They set their eyes on this kid. They set their eyes on Ohtani when he became available. And what did he decide to do? He wanted to stay closer to Japan. He wanted to stay on the West Coast. So he signed with the Angels. And look what he turned out to be. The Yankees do not want to strike out for a second Japanese player. This is a kid that they've been following and watching for years. They've had scouts in Japan for the last 2.5 years. They were at the World Baseball Classics. You've heard that Brian Cashman flew over there to Japan quite a few times with Hal Steinbrenner. And now you heard Steve Cohen flew with his jet to sit down with Yamamoto's family. So it's the battle of the New York teams. It's a battle of maybe Boston, teams that are going to overpay for him. Now, Josh thinks he's going to make between 7 to 8 years, between $250, $300 million. I think it'll be under $250 million, but he's going to make over $200 million. He is. So when you look at the Juan Soto move, if the Yankees don't add a pitching prospect or a pitcher in free agency, maybe even signing a pitcher, what are the Yankees going to do with this rotation? They just lost Michael King, who was a part of that rotation. That's one guy out of the rotation. Severino's out of the rotation. He signs with the Mets 1 year, $13 million. So where do the Yankees go for that fifth starter? Is it Schmidt? Are they going to trust a young kid? He played very well in the second half last year. No question that he did. And the Yankees love him. The Yankees think that he could be a future third, maybe even second starter if he starts to develop into the player they think he is. But again, you're going to trust a young pitcher to get on that mound every fifth day and pitch a gem. And I don't know if he's going to. And by the way, if you look at Schmidt's record in Yankee Stadium, it's not good. So you wonder, is this it for the Yankees this year? Is this it in free agency? You bring in Soto, and it's not even free agent. You made a trade. You gave up pieces for a great player. And you bring in Grisham for 1 year, who you're probably going to lose to free agency anyway. You took on the contract because guess what? The Padres overpaid every single one of their players.
Yeah, the Padres are in a weird spot because Juan Soto has been traded now twice in the last 2 years, too. And they were going to lose value. We've been talking about it with the payroll discrepancy issues that they've had, the stadium funding that has not come into fruition because the Padres could not win a close game last season and missed the playoffs despite having like a plus 60 run differential and not ideal circumstances there. So they have to trade him for a lot less than they had to trade to Washington. And we'll discuss that with Charlie Slows later. A lot of the prospects did well for Washington going over there too. But the Padres now had to make a trade, the best trade offer possible, because they could not get the value. And the Yankees really gave that to them when they gave away Michael King, like you were saying, who's great in a lot of different roles. I don't really care about the label of whether he's a starter or reliever. He did well in both, and that's what matters a lot. And these other, Drew Thorpe is a good pitching prospect, the Yankees' top pitching prospect, and they had to give him up. Higashioka wasn't much. That's Garrett Cole's personal catcher, though, so that definitely could be helpful for a lot of the pitchers. So then you have to try to get that guy to work well with the other pitchers too. And like you were saying, where are the Yankees pitching depth coming from now? Are they going to find these guys in the bullpen again? Are they going to find these guys in the rotation? And that's why Juan Soto has to be signed. And that's why Brian Cashman's comments that he's not really taking on the negotiations. I guess it's early. I'm not going to really jump into that too much, but you still have to push for that kind of thing if you're going to make this kind of trade.
Scott Boras already said that he is not negotiating any deal until the offseason. That's next year, which means no matter what Brian Cashman does, no matter what Hal Steinbrenner does with Scott Boras, they're not going to negotiate this deal until the offseason. So the Yankees are putting themselves in a really bad hole. If Soto decides to walk away from the Yankees and go play for the Mets or go play for the Dodgers or want to play for Philadelphia because his two buddies are over there, what are the Yankees going to do? They just gave away 3 prospects and a really good young pitcher at 28 years old that's finding his own. So, and these guys could turn out to be good players. They could be bust. But then you're still looking at your farm system. Your farm system going into this offseason was ranked between 17th and 18th in the league. Now, all of a sudden, you just traded away Thorpe, your best young pitching prospect. Michael King, who obviously is, he's been a part of this team for the last couple of years. And then the other two prospects, honestly, to me, the Yankees now farm system probably is ranked in the 20s. And you're wondering where the young talent is coming from now. They haven't been a top draft team because they're always a winning team. Right. They're always in the late teens, early 20s. Now, you could find somebody. You found Aaron Judge in the 20s. So it's quite possible. Mike Trout was in the mid-20s. I think he was the 24th or 23rd pick. So maybe you find a guy, a gem that falls to them. But there's no guarantees to that. And the Yankees have a very good scouting bunch of guys that are out there looking for top talent in the later rounds. But you never always are right with these draft picks. So Juan Soto's a sure thing. Mikey C was here last week. He said he's a sure thing. Yes, he's a sure thing. But are you willing to give up two possible pitching arms that could be a part of your organization for the next 10 years for Juan Soto, who's a rented player, for one? It doesn't make sense. And I again, if the Yankees win the World Series this year, nobody's going to talk about it if he decides to walk away, because the Yankees made the trade on a whim because they believe that Soto could get him over the top. And if he does, and he gets them a World Series, and he walks to the Mets, it was worth every penny that the Yankees traded for.
Brian Cashman can't bank on that kind of logic just for 1 year, because we saw the last 2 years with these new playoff formats too. A lot of underdog teams really doing well in the playoffs. The Rangers and Diamondbacks in the World Series, both wild card teams, the Phillies the year before. So they can't bank on that kind of thing. At the same time, though, if the Yankees are not like labeled on this great roster, they also could do well as a wild card team at the same time. But nevertheless, the process has to be there for Brian Cashman to try to sweeten it for Juan Soto now before it gets too
What
ugly.
are you going to sweeten?
Yeah.
What are you sweetening for him?
Right.
He's going to make between 400 and 500 million.
Easily. And
so what are you sweetening?
I'll
give you 500 million. Well, I could get more. So yeah.
No, they definitely could get more.
I'm away.
Because Juan Soto, in his time in the major leagues, has been one of the best pure hitters, not raw power, like you were saying. Aaron Judge, you want to say he's the best pure power hitter, somebody like that. Vlad Guerrero, we were talking about. But walks, on base percentage, OPS, he's been some of the best. These are record-setting years that he's had to start the year. I think Juan Soto and Mickey Mantle are the only players in MLB history that have, in their first 6 years, 400 on base percentage in 5 of them.
Here's the only positive with Juan Soto. How many great baseball players, when they become free agents, walk away from the Yankees?
Right.
Not many. Okay? Not many. So that could be the advantage the Yankees have, is that they are the Yankees, and they're going to give you the money, and they're going to make you want to stay there, want to be there, and play for the rest of your career here and try to win as many World Series as you possibly can. And you will be one of the core pieces moving forward to win many different World Series for many different years. So the Yankees have put themselves in a position to try to speak to him and speak to his agent. They have a good relationship with Scott Boras. They've signed a lot of Scott Boras's players. And Scott Boras likes the Yankees because he overcharges the Yankees. Right. The Yankees take it. So they take the bait. So I understand why the Yankees did this. And maybe they could persuade a guy like Soto to say, you know what, this is the New York Yankees. This isn't, the Padres that never win. This isn't the Nationals that win. They barely win, or they never win. They won one World Series because of me. So, I mean, obviously, they know in the position that the Yankees are as an organization, and one of the greatest organizations in professional sports, that, hey, Juan Soto will look at that and say, I'd rather be here than the Mets, because the Mets haven't won since 1986. I don't care how good their young talent is. I have a chance to win every single year here in New York.
But you also have to keep in mind, too, baseball is not like the NBA, where it's like, all right, a superstar player is going to force his way there, and they usually get what they want. Like, outside of the Dodgers with Mookie Betts, like, there's not a lot of stars that have moved, superstar players that have moved teams, and they go to their most conventional locations. Like Shohei Ohtani with the Angels, we were talking about it. The Angels were not the favorites to land Shohei Ohtani. When Bryce Harper signed with the Phillies, they were not the favorites to land Bryce Harper. And the Yankees can't like sit back on that kind of thing either and just trust that he's going to stay there just because he's the Yankees too. And we saw that kind of thing with other teams in the past too. These higher payroll teams that have that kind of reputation still lose those guys anyway, because teams can pay now. It's not like football where you have a salary cap and anything like that. Baseball, you just have to pay the luxury tax things. We know the Yankees will do that. Brian Cashman mentioned that they'll go over $300 million payroll and pay the luxury tax stipulations to do that. And I like the fact that he's trying to make it the mecca of baseball to have that kind of draw. But at the same time, like we saw with the Mets, you can't just overspend and just do that either because it doesn't always win.
The mecca of baseball is right now the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yes.
Okay, that's the mecca of baseball right now. That's why Ohtani wants to go there. That's why a lot of people decide, hey, you know what? I want to go play for a great organization like the Dodgers. They have a great farm system. They're very well run, and they're going to do everything they can to win. The Yankees, have they proven to do anything to win? Over the last couple of years, the answer is no. What did the Yankees do last year in the offseason that made anybody believe they're going to win? They did nothing. And what did they do going into the offseason before this to really push to think that they were going to win? They kept Brian Cashman, which I understand, and they still have Aaron Boone there. Now, I like Aaron Boone. This is a guy that's won a lot of games for the Yankees in the 5 years he's been there. He really has. And he's been successful in a way, not winning World Series, but successful enough to say that this team has had a winning record since he's been there. And this is a guy that has no management experience. But when you look at this division right now, are they better than Baltimore adding Soto? Are they really better than Baltimore right now? Now, I think their rotation is better than Baltimore.
Yeah.
Adding Soto, does that change the lineup enough to say that they're better than Baltimore? How about Tampa? Now, Tampa's looking to trade away two of their top players. And Glass now will be traded one way or another. And one of their star young outfielders could be traded. Yeah, so he could go too. Now, is that going to be enough to say that you're better than Tampa? Toronto has Bo Bichette, who is going to be expecting a big contract at the end of this year, and Vladimir Guerrero, another player that I think is fantastic, who's very close to being that MVP candidate that I think he should have been for the last couple of years.
Good starting pitching. So
the only team that we see to be not that good in this division right now, because I don't believe they're going to go out there. If they get Yamamoto, maybe, but is Yamamoto enough to help Boston jump and hurdle over the Yankees? No. So Boston could make one or two big moves and add two good players, but none of them are going to be better than Soto. But I'll tell you this right now, in the offseason next year, you best believe the Boston Red Sox are going to offer Soto a long-term deal worth about $400 to $500 million. Oh, yeah. There's no question they're going to do that. And they would love to stick it to the Yankees, as the Yankees stuck it to the Boston Red Sox over the years, a.k.a. Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, they're going to do that with Yamamoto, too. It fits what the Red Sox love to do with paying pitchers, because they don't really develop the homegrown pitchers as well in comparison to other teams. And they had to do that with their whole World Series team. They had to do that recently with Chris Sale and David Price. So, yeah, definitely don't be surprised at that. And the Red Sox now with new ownership, too, they're going to start spending again, too. Now, whether they get the players is a different case, because like you were saying, they really don't have a lot of high upside guys on that team right now, especially compared to the rest of the division. The Orioles have all the upside in the world. Like you were saying, the pitching still is some questions there, but they still have a great bullpen and great young hitters. Toronto's kind of stuck in between like the Yankees are. They had some bad contracts that hurt them. And I think the new rules is something else too.
They still have a good farm system.
They do.
Yeah.
And the Blue Jays and the Yankees kind of fell into that trap of they paid a lot of these older hitters that didn't work. Obviously, the Yankees trading for Donaldson was really bad. Rizzo had the one good year, but it was really bad last year. And Toronto was the same kind of thing with Chapman, with Springer, that didn't work out either.
Well, I will say this. Boston does have a new GM. So they're run differently. They're going to be running differently. They're going to go out there and spend money. They don't have a new ownership, by the way. And Jeff,
I said
right.
GM.
Yeah,
I meant GM.
GM. But I do believe that Boston, in the next couple of years, will get back to that star team that we expect them to be. They've always been one of the beasts of the East. I'm very surprised right now that Boston, over the last couple of years, really didn't go out and spend the money that they should have. But that's why they fired their GM, and that's why they're moving on with a new GM. And I expect them to open up their pockets in the next 2 seasons. I do believe Boston will spend close to $500-600 million, just like the Mets will do every single year until they get the right players around to win a World Series. The Yankees right now, they have to sit on this and hope that Soto says, hey, you know what? I've played here for a year. I like what the Yankees are doing. I like that they're going to build around me moving forward. Aaron Judge is the captain, but I am going to be the face of the Yankees when Aaron Judge retires in the next 5 to 6 years. And then the Yankees can move forward with both young stars. So I still wonder, is this enough if the Yankees decide to do no more, maybe just add a pitcher here and there, a veteran pitcher,
Right.
is this enough for the Yankees to hurdle over Baltimore, Tampa, and Toronto?
Yeah, just a lot of depth that is going to be very key because you can't trust every veteran hitter to bounce back either. Because you could say LeMahieu because he's a good contact hitter and stuff like that. Rizzo because he had a good pass. Like you could expect some of them to, but you can't imagine all of them are going to. And the same kind of things with the young players. You want to say Volpe will take a step, fine. Catcher position is a question mark. And then, like you're saying, the pitching depth, is it going to be enough, especially if Rodon gets hurt again and some of these relievers get hurt again like they have in years past too? And that's the questions that the Yankees are still going to have to answer because there's not one obvious formula. You could spend a lot and still win, and you could develop players and still win. You have to find that happy medium like the Texas Rangers this year. They spent a lot of money, but they also developed young players well.
No question. And I think when you look at this move for the Yankees, this is a make or break move for Brian Cashman. And I will say this. Win, lose, or draw, Brian Cashman is going to be gone after this year. I've said it, and I'll continue saying it. As much as everybody thinks that if they win, he's going to stay. I do believe the Yankees are going to move elsewhere when it comes to the GM position. Maybe he stays as an executive when he steps down as a GM, but I think the Yankees want to bring in new blood, and I still believe it's going to be Ng. I really do. Yeah, she's new blood. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to draft. She's been a part of the organization for many, many years. And the Yankees like to hire guys or girls that are part of the organization. And I think Ng is just sitting back and right now waiting for the opportunity to pounce on it. Yeah. So now I wanted to get into this story because this is a huge story, college football and the playoffs. This really pissed me off, okay? So I'm going to get into this. I know Jeff's going to call. I know a lot of college football fans that are Florida State fans were not happy with the committee. Definitely not happy with the committee over the weekend. And I wasn't because I was sitting at the Peter Pan Diner, and I see the four teams that are going to the Final Four and for the college football playoff, and I didn't understand it. And I understand how they rate and they grade certain teams, top 15 teams. I understand that. And obviously the quarterback position being that they have a third string true freshman starting, but they still won. They still were one of the best defensive teams in the country, if not the best defensive team in the country. But let's get into it. The college football playoff was set with Michigan at number 1, Washington at number 2, Texas at number 3, and Alabama at number 4. All 4 teams were conference champions. The first time since the first year of the college football playoff system in 2015. Florida State was the first undefeated conference champion to miss the college football playoff in 9 years. It has been around. Defending champion Georgia missed the playoffs despite their only loss being 27-24 to Alabama in the SEC championship game. Ohio State missed the playoffs despite their only loss being against Michigan, number 1 Michigan, something that they and Alabama both got away with in the previous years. This is the last year of the 4-team college football playoff before it will expand to a 12-team next year. I know Jeff wants to come on, and we will get Jeff on.
You go first. I know you're a Florida State fan.
I am so disgusted with the committee, okay? I am disgusted. This is a Seminole team that has been craving over the last, since Jimbo, Mr. Fisher decided to flee and go to Texas A&M, okay? And I'm going to get into that because Jimbo's now no longer with the organization or the school because he was bought out. So what I'm going to say about this is a serious notion of what the committee has done to college football. This is not about who's better, who deserves to be there. It's all about what coach they want in this college football playoff. And I'll sit here and be truthful on this. Alabama has Coach Saban. All-time great coach. Could retire at the end of this year. There were stories coming out before the year ended that he could be leaving after this year. And I understand they want to give him his last hurrah. Maybe he can ride off into the sunset. And I understand Michigan. Michigan is one of the best defensive teams in the country. They have McCarthy, who could be a first-round draft pick, Jim Harbaugh, the great Jim Harbaugh, who will probably flee after this year to the NFL. We've been saying that he's probably going to Vegas. Washington, who's really surprised everybody all season long. So many surprising wins. They have an all-world wide receiver. Their offense has been so fun to watch this year. And this is a team that I believe if there's any team that deserves to sneak into this playoff, it would be them. And then there's the Texas Longhorns, a team that in the beginning of the year looked like they were a world beater. And then as the season moved forward, they started looking like a subpar team at best. They have a great young quarterback that's going to the NFL draft. I don't think he's going to be a first, second, or third round draft pick. I don't. And they have Archie Manning there. So everybody wants to see great old young Archie sitting on the bench. And maybe if something happens, some surprise happens. We've seen this with Alabama, with Tua, if you remember that. If Texas makes it to the championship game and, hey, their number one string doesn't play well, hey, we'll see Archie in the second half. He wins a national championship. And there we go, the Manning story. I don't know what the committee was thinking here. Florida State has been the defined defense this year in all of football. They have about 4 guys that could honestly be first-round draft picks. Their front 7 is as good a front 7 as we've seen Florida State have in about 20 years. Since the 90s. Okay? And I sit here, and I understand Florida State's not going to say anything. They're not going to speak up. They don't want to throw anybody under the bus. They don't. And I understand that. To me, it's understandable about the way the Florida, football and college football is. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to make the committee look bad. Leonard Hamilton is not a big name, okay? He's not a big coach. He's not
Mike Norville.
I'm sorry.
That was their basketball coach.
I'm sorry. My bad. My thought with the coaching in college football, it's all about the name. It's all about the money. College football is all about money. What are these coaches going to bring in? What are they going to bring in as, recruits? Who they are. If you besides Washington, all 3 of the other coaches are very well-known coaches. All 3 of them. And all 3 of them were NFL coaches at one time. So I could understand why the committee looks at that and say, you know what? That's why they're there. But I just don't understand when you look at the talent that Florida State showed this year. And again, they used a true freshman in the last 2-3 games of the season. And they won games. They beat teams that were top 15 talented teams with a third-string freshman quarterback. Does that show anything? And yes, they lost Travis. He's out for the season. I understand that. And he was one of the best quarterbacks at one point in the country before he got hurt. And losing him, yeah, it hurts. Obviously, the committee sitting there and trying to vote. Why would we want to see a third-string quarterback or a second-string quarterback play? How about their defense is all worldly? Their running game showed, especially in that ACC championship. Did they not? Did their running game not show up, especially in the big part of the fourth quarter? No, they didn't beat up in the ACC championship. They didn't beat up anybody, and you could see that. The numbers would show you they didn't just absolutely pulverize their opponent.
The Louisville's a top 20 offense in a lot of categories, though.
No question. The defense is fantastic. Mm-hmm. It still sends a question to next year when there's 12 teams going to be there. If the committee doesn't like you, or they don't like the coach, or they don't accept the record to be really stand out in all the top 15 teams that you play, and just because you have a third string quarterback playing and you didn't think that they really dominated that championship game, well then the committee says, you know what, I don't like them. I don't know much about the coach. I don't think the coach is going to bring a national champion. It's no Urban Meyer. It's no Nick Saban. It's no Jim Harbaugh. Are they going to sit here and say, hey, you know what? I just don't like that team. I don't want him in the college playoffs.
And that shouldn't matter because you look at these other kids, like you're saying, these defense, this offensive line, these wide receivers that are really talented for Florida State that don't deserve to lose out on the chance to play in a college football playoff just because your quarterback got hurt. That's not an uncontrollable aspect. Like, that is so stupid to just do that kind of thing and just screw this program, screw this team that's done so well for so long. They were undefeated, first of all, which a Power 5 conference undefeated team has never been left out of the college football playoff before. Ohio State had a third-string quarterback when they won their national championship. No, they let them in the playoffs because of Urban Meyer, because of the big name of the program. No, but they can't let Florida State in because for a different reason. Ohio State went on to win the national championship that year, keep in mind. Now, I'm not saying Ohio State isn't a better team than this Florida State team. I think they were, but regardless, the same metrics can be applied to Florida State too that kept them out of the playoff. And it's just so stupid because why? You want ratings? You want a better matchup of Texas and Alabama rematch or Michigan, Alabama because of Jim Harbaugh versus Nick Saban? It's such flawed logic, and you have to feel so bad for these kids. The conference, the ACC is not going to get that same level of funding. Jeff says it all the time. Like other ACC teams are going to get funding for that too. You want to grow the conference. No, you're going to put Alabama in, who, by the way, had some games with other SEC teams that weren't that good. And the stupid argument, the only thing that Alabama has an argument over was the schedule, but they didn't exactly dominate all the teams either. The Florida State dominated, and they had a similar amount of top 15 wins too.
I think they have 8. They were 8-0, I think, against top 15 teams.
They were 4-1, 4-0 against top 25 opponents, and they were 8-0 against the top 50, I believe.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And Mike Norvell is not a superstar coach like we were naming. But hey, the Washington coach is not a superstar coach either. Mm-hmm. But they deserve to be there. They did what they needed to do to get into the top 4. As we remember last year with Utah. Utah snuck into the playoff, surprised everybody, knocked Michigan off, and then went to the national championship and got completely dominated by Georgia. Mm-hmm. Florida State wouldn't have been dominated even with a third-string quarterback. And by the way, they were not going to play a third-string quarterback. Their second-string quarterback, the concussion protocol, he was probably going to play in the college football playoffs. So, again, I understand why the committee decided to not accept Florida State. And I know Jeff is going to have his own thoughts to it because he wants to argue with me. I just think when you look at it and you look at the position that this committee was sitting on, I think they were absolutely wrong. Go ahead.
Before we get Jeff, I also want to say too, like, there's been other teams that have gotten blown out in the playoff a lot and still get in anyway. We joke about it all the time with West, with Oklahoma. Like, Oklahoma makes the playoff all the time. They still get blown out by Alabama and LSU. Notre Dame, same kind of thing. And you didn't keep them out, but you still want to keep Florida State out. It just doesn't make any sense. All right, Jeff, have at it.
Oh boy, the amount of errors that you guys could make in one soliloquy is just too much for me to correct. Utah didn't make the college football playoff last year. That is wild.
What was it? I'm sorry, TCU. I meant TCU. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well, all right. I want to make an analogy here, and you're going to get upset about the whole analogy, but it's going to be true. Okay? It's just going to be true. This is exactly like Tom Brady's situation. Okay? Because this is what happened. Tom Brady got suspended, went to court. He won. That's what he did. He won. And then they didn't like it, so they took him back to court and said, we can just do what we want. And everyone else just sat there and said, yeah, because we don't like you. That's what we want to do. And then when it came to Zeke Elliott, other fans got mad because he got suspended for nothing. And what really the problem really was the rest of you muggles sat around silent because you just didn't like the guy. So you allowed a precedent to be set because you didn't like him. And then when it came back, then you cried and whined. And so that's the precedent we have right now. Because now elitism. This is what we have. FSU people are the stupidest people on the planet.
Oh, God,
they're alumni, they're fans, they're players. Oh God, how could your hero be Captain Crablegs? It's utterly insane. Because I'll tell you what happened. A few years ago, there was a team that went 2 seasons straight, undefeated. Mm-hmm. And they wanted in the college football playoff. And the elites stood around and said, we don't like you. You can't be here. And everyone was fine with it because it benefited them at the time. And now Florida State has become victim. They're the Zeke Elliott in this thing. But because you all stood around and said UCF didn't belong, now it's coming back. You let them set the precedent because you didn't like them, and now you're unhappy because it's happening to you. Well, too bad.
I said UCF belonged the first year. I didn't think so the second year as much, but Cincinnati still made it too, 2 years ago.
Whoa. Slow down, Speedy. 2 years straight, undefeated. You yourself just said you win all the games, you get in. So if you're in.
It depends who you beat, Jeff. That's what it depends on. And you look at, if you look at Florida State, they beat it. I think Speedy was saying 4 of the top 15 teams that they played against.
They were 4-0 in top 25.
So,
and
No. We're not doing this. Those teams may have been ranked when they played. They only beat 2 teams that were ranked at the end of the year, LSU and Louisville, and that's it. Because I don't want to hear about, then Colorado must have had an amazing schedule, right? Because they beat TCU the first week of the season, who was ranked 17th. Well, TCU lost 7 out of 10 games. Does that still count as a ranked win? They were dog shit.
Well, yeah, it depends on how you're classified it at the time versus at the end of the season. I think the top 25 criteria, though, is still used for that.
Right, which is a problem, which the college football playoff system doesn't need to do. But for all the let me ask you an honest question. Do you think Florida State's one of the 4 best teams?
No, I don't.
But again, you don't look at it. Do you really think that Washington's one of the best teams?
They won all their games in the Pac-12.
So what? But I don't. I don't think they're a top 4 team right now.
Speedy, do you remember me?
I don't think Texas is there too. I don't think they should be there.
Speedy, do you remember me telling you week 6 Washington would get in?
Yeah, they should.
Jeff, when it comes to college football, I'm not going to doubt you, Jeff, but I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, Washington should be there. Because if they have beaten everybody that they should have beaten, and if you look at what Florida State did this year with a 3rd-string quarterback, and by the way, everybody thought it was over when Travis got hurt. Everybody thought it was all over, but they won.
Turns out it was.
It turns out it was because of the committee, not because of the team. The team went out there and did what they needed to do to win. And they did what they needed to do in the ACC championship.
Right, but that's exactly the Florida State situation is exactly the UCF situation. Because if you go back and remember, UCF had a quarterback that got blown out his leg too.
Milton. Yeah,
his name was Mackenzie Milton.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same situation, and they left him out. So the precedent was set, and once all the fans of the elite schools like you, Errol. Oh, I love Florida State.
I grew up a Florida State fan. Yeah,
you were silent.
I was silent. I was sitting at the Peter Pan Diner eating my food, and I see Saban's face pop up, and then I see all 4 teams that were picked. I thought it was Monday, not Sunday, that the committee was going to pick who was going into that championship, the championship rounds, and I was pissed off. I was sat there. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Either way, there was 2 teams. Either way, there was going to be 2 teams that got swept.
What did Florida State have to do, Jeff? What did they have to do in that game to actually make it to the Final Four? Oh, I don't know. They should have won by 50, won by 30. That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense.
No, style points matter in college football because the schedule is so limited.
And Alabama beat Arkansas by 3, who aren't a good team either.
Yeah,
and Alabama beat Georgia by 3. What does that mean?
They're a good team.
That doesn't matter. They beat them by 3. They beat out Georgia. Georgia won 1 game. They lost 1 game against Alabama. 1 game against Alabama, and because they didn't win that game, they lost by 3. They're not in the Final Four.
And by the way, they probably should have won that game because they had a false start penalty, which made them miss a field goal, and then they also had that dumb handoff fumble, which they gave up a field goal. That would have been a 6-point swing right there. So Georgia would have won. Either way, there was going to be 2 teams unhappy, whether it was Texas and Georgia or Alabama and Florida State. Either way, there was going to be 2 teams very upset. So I'm glad that they're expanding, which is good.
Yeah.
But this just highlights the scenarios in which people remain silent when someone is deserving of something, but because you like an elite school. Oh, I like Ohio State. They should get in.
But Ohio State also made it with a 3rd-string quarterback, too. So why can't Florida State?
I have been following Florida State all these years when they sucked, okay? So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I like an elite team. I've been a Florida State fan since the 90s. So
Yeah,
I've been
it wasn't
following
that
them. I
long ago
hated
they won the
Miami.
national
I couldn't
championship. What was it,
stand
8
Miami.
years ago, 9 years ago? When did they win the national title?
Jameis Winston.
10 years
It
ago,
was
I
10
believe,
years ago. Yeah, it was 10 years ago. From
That can't be 10. Dude, that can't be 10
It
years.
was 2013, 2014.
Yeah, no, I think it's 10 years ago. It was my freshman year of college.
It was 2013,
Really?
2014. Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, that doesn't
Because they
seem
made
right.
it 2 years later, and then they lost against Oregon.
Mr. Crab Stealer. The crab leg stealer.
But I honestly don't know. I just can't believe it's been 10 years since that.
Yeah, it's been 10 years. It goes fast. Life goes fast.
Yeah, but because I judge it by Jameis Winston, because he got
Boy,
4
he
years.
sucks in the NFL.
No, but he got 4 years at Tampa, and then I can't believe he spent 6 years bouncing around the rest of the league. Like that doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, it goes fast, man. The NFL season just flies by. Look, it's almost over already. I mean, we're going. What are we going into week 14?
Thank God.
So
I'm tired of
it's
watching this mediocre nonsense.
if anything, you want to see it be the NFL be mediocre.
But you're highlighting the problem. Everyone stayed silent because everyone stayed silent. The committee tried to make up for it in a following year, and the committee screwed up. Is what they did because they ranked Cincinnati number 2 to start the season, and then Cincinnati didn't lose, so they couldn't demote them far down the ranking to get them out. Because that was their goal. Their goal was to, everyone's saying we're biased, so we're just going to rank Cincinnati high just because. When they refused to move UCF up and they were messing people up. And even that year that they went undefeated, they messed up Auburn in the Peach Bowl. And Auburn that year was like the hottest team in college football and only got left out of the playoff because they lost to Alabama in the Iron Bowl.
Before the ACC.
No, they actually beat Alabama. They lost to Georgia the next week. It's that weird conference championship screwed up, and Alabama got in because of that.
And before the ACC championship, and I remember all the reporters and everybody was saying, if Florida State was a shoo-in to make the tournament, they were a shoo-in. They said it. All they have to do is win the game, and they're a shoo-in. They're making the Final Four.
People complaining are going to be people that didn't hear the committee when they said we're taking the 4 best teams, and you just admitted Florida State is probably not one of the 4 best. I mean, you don't know unless they all play, so that is what it is. But they don't appear to be one of the 4 best teams.
Like we mentioned, TCU. TCU was not expected to go to the finals last year and the championship game, and they knocked off Michigan, and there they are. They're playing Georgia and getting their butts whipped in the first half.
Right. But they won that playoff game against a pretty good Michigan squad.
And why wouldn't you think that the Seminoles were going to go into the Final Four and not actually win? Their defense proved that they can compete with anybody, and they can run the ball. They have 2 quality running backs.
They're not one of the 4 best teams.
But we don't know who the best team is. Do you think Alabama is one of the top 4
you said
best
previously
teams?
In this conversation, you didn't think they were one of the 4
No,
best
but you want to know something? When you hear all these different reporters before the game say it's a shoo-in, if they win this game, no matter what the score is, they're in the Final Four, and then all of a sudden they get pushed out because, hey, you know what? Alabama surprised the world and knocked off Georgia 27-24. They snuck and won that game. And then obviously what we saw with Texas in that final game, Texas shouldn't be there. Texas is not better than Florida State.
The methodology also has to be consistent, with the formula versus the best team.
Of course Texas is better. Who's Florida State's best win this year?
Who's Florida State's best win? I don't know. I don't have the schedule in front of me.
What, probably either LSU week 1 of the season.
LSU is definitely the best win.
Or Louisville, who they just beat in the ACC championship game.
Well, they were kind of a surprise team. I would say LSU is probably the best one.
Are either one of those better wins than beating Alabama?
No, but I also think the methodology versus the 4 best teams are 2 different things.
There you go. Hold on. So there you go. Florida State's best wins could even hold a candle to beating Alabama, which Texas did.
Oh no, Texas I like. I'm saying more for the
Errol's saying
I don't. No, I don't like Texas. No, I don't.
It's also the pattern and the seeding for any type of playoff versus who actually are the 4 best teams are a matter of judgment. I think Oregon is one of the best teams, and they're lost twice to Washington, so they're not going to get in.
And
that system.
And Jeff, I know you like Quinn Ewers. I know you like him.
You're not going to put a team in the playoff that just lost twice to the team that won that
conference. No, I know that, but I still think they're one of the best teams. But regardless, that's not a method of judging when you have to look at the numbers first.
What makes Texas better than Florida State? What makes them better? What, because of the quarterback? Because of the quarterback. That's it.
No.
Is Texas better defensively? Are they better?
Better players. No, they have better players across the board. Xavier Worthy is an amazing player. Whittington's terrific.
Why are they saying, Jeff? Why are they saying 4 of the front 7 of the Florida State Seminoles are going to be first-round draft picks? Why are they saying that? Why are they saying that?
How much do you want to put?
I'm not putting on anything. Why do we have to sit here and make a bet right now? They said that. They say they have definitely 2 of them. Definitely 2 of them. And they say there's no question that there could be 4 of them drafted in the first round this year.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
They said that about Clemson. Remember that? Remember that about Clemson?
And I was completely wrong, and I fully put myself out there. I was wrong.
Okay.
There's not going to be 4. The 4 defensive linemen for Florida State are not all going in the first round. I would put anything on.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion, but again, it could happen.
Well, but my opinion seems to be the one that usually pans out.
I don't know about that. Somebody needs
usually. I just said usually, not all the time. Usually, is it the one that pans out?
Well, with college football, I would give you a little bit more credit.
Lamb no good?
And I knew CeeDee Lamb was going to be good. Me and you were arguing.
Right. That wasn't you. That was the mom-breathing coleslaw maker.
I loved CeeDee Lamb. I couldn't believe that he fell to number 17. I had no idea. Honestly, the Jets were sitting there at number 11. I would have drafted CeeDee Lamb. It would have been a better move than Mekhi Becton. And right now, is what we see.
Not for nothing. This has to play a part in this as well. You're not going to be able to convince me otherwise. And this isn't necessarily going to be Florida State's fault, but Oklahoma can't allow 40 points scored in the first half because they're dog shit and it ruins one of the playoff games. Like, how many playoff games have we seen be a blowout?
Oh, I mentioned that too. Same kind of thing with Notre Dame. Like, they still get in anyway. So
right. So you're not going to get put in if they think it's going to be a blowout. And if you had watched the Florida State Louisville game,
I did. I watched the whole game. I sat here.
Pathetic.
I said,
it was pathetic.
It was pathetic until the fourth quarter, and then they played their game. They're not going to score with a third string quarterback, a true freshman. They're not. But again, it doesn't matter. We've seen this before. You can win. Alabama has had crappy quarterbacks over the years, and they go to the national championship.
Yeah, no. You can't. No. Don't do that because their offenses with those crappy. And yes, you're right. They were Greg McElroy's dog shit. No, I get it. But when they were at Alabama, they were really good players. So you can't do that. You can't do that. Just because they all pan out in the NFL doesn't mean they weren't.
No, but again, Alabama, over the years, they weren't known for their quarterbacks. They were more known for their defenses.
Of course they were.
All-world
Everyone
defenses.
Was saying A.J. McCarron was great or Greg McElroy was great. Everyone was.
I don't know.
And that's mostly because.
Where was McElroy? Okay, McElroy was great. Where was he drafted? 5th round?
Yeah, no.
5th round? That's great.
No, hold on. Right. Here's the problem with what you do.
Oh, here he goes. Here we go. How do you consider somebody being great where they're drafted? If they were great, they would have been first round draft picks.
Because people don't draft based on your success in college. They don't. Because if that were true, Anthony Richardson.
Let me ask you a question, Jeff. What did Greg McElroy do in the NFL when he did get drafted? Let's hear
nothing. He was terrible.
Okay. He went to a national championship game.
All right. So Tim Tebow's college career, he was dog shit.
No. But Tim Tebow was Tebow was more successful. Tim Tebow was more successful in the NFL than Greg McElroy. He actually won a playoff game. He actually played well when he had a starting job. It's a shame what they did to Tim Tebow. Do I think he was a good quarterback? But he found a way to win. What did Greg McElroy do? He shoved a football up his ass.
First of all, you want to have a double standard when you want to have it because you want to say Greg McElroy was a terrible college quarterback because his NFL career was terrible, and that's not the case. It's not.
What did Greg McElroy do in college? I do remember that Alabama team actually.
Did he win 2 or was it 3 national titles?
2. First of all, he didn't win anything. Okay, that defense won everything. That defense was a world beater. They were a world beater. Did you watch the national? I know you did. They were a world beater.
You're asking me if I watched.
I know you did. That those are 2 of the best defense we've ever seen Alabama have.
Oh no, I don't think that was.
They were 2 really good defensive teams. They were really good.
Greg McElroy's defense definitely was not the best Alabama defense that had.
I'm saying back-to-back years, you could say that was the 2 back-to-back years we've seen a defense play dominant like that. We have not seen an Alabama team do that back-to-back years the way they did it. Okay, and by the way,
not an Alabama team, but you've seen a better team do it.
Oh,
a better defense do it.
Oh,
Georgia the last 2 years.
Okay, we're not speaking about Georgia. We're speaking about Alabama. We're speaking about Greg McElroy, who speaks a lot about the quarterback play. And I'm going to take information from a guy that probably shoves the football up his ass more times than throwing it.
What you want to do is talk in circles so it fits your narrative.
Oh, here he goes. We're just going back and forth. I'm just telling you the truth here.
Right. No. And I'm telling you the truth. You can't judge Greg McElroy's college career off his pro career. It's not fair and it's not even. It's not. That because Tim Tebow had a terrible pro career, I guess he was shit in college. And you don't like that, right? You don't like that because that's what you did, and then I gave you an example of it, and now you don't like it. This is exactly the attitude on why you're upset Florida State got left out.
Really?
Because what you want to do to people when it happens back to you, then it's unfair.
First of all, Jeff, I'm not going to sit here and complain about something that I have no control over. One. Number two, no, I don't. I don't have any control. No, I don't.
You do have control.
How do I have control? Am I on the committee? Am I sitting there and saying, I want the Seminoles there? They belong there.
Shut up for a second. I tell you, but you babble on and on.
You're the one who's babbling.
No, if you had, have you heard you? If you had shown this kind of outrage when it happened to UCF, it wouldn't be happening again. But because the elitist people that like the big schools said nothing, it happened again. And now you just don't like that it happened to you.
Are you done?
That's what happened.
That's what happened? That's what you think happened. That's not the way I look at it.
It's definitely what happened because it's the same excuse that they use with UCF. Well, we don't think they're one of the best 4 schools, so we're just going to leave them out. And everyone else was okay with it because big power schools got in because of it.
Jeff, why do you always have to find a way to argue about something that has really nothing to do with what I'm speaking about? Really?
They're directly correlated. These 2 instances are directly
correlated.
correlated.
There's another word. That's the speedy word. Correlation. Let's go.
Do you not know what correlation is?
Come on, Jeff, come on. Just go into it. Finish up what you have to say, and I'm done.
Right. These instances are directly correlated because it's the same committee, or it's different people, but it's the same body doing the same thing. And they got away with it the last time, and everyone was fine with it. So now one fan base is unhappy with it. When if you had just showed this kind of anger when it happened to UCF, it wouldn't be happening again.
So why does Ohio State in 2015 not have that same issue with a 3rd-string quarterback?
Because that 3rd-string quarterback could play and they still looked pretty good. This kid did not look pretty. If you watched the Louisville game, and Errol says he did, it was horrific.
It was all the way into the 4th quarter, and then there was some really big plays by the running back, and then obviously the defense really showed up in the 4th quarter to shut down Louisville.
And they also don't want more situations like remember when I said Notre Dame shouldn't even get off the bus, they're going to get killed by Clemson?
Yeah.
They don't want more situations like that.
Okay. And that could happen here too. It could have happened to anyone.
It could happen to anyone, but Florida State's offense is going to be horrific. So why set yourself up for the same problem? They're trying to be proactive in fixing that problem.
Boy, they did a great job on this.
End up working out. There may be blowouts that happen. It may not end up working out, but you would assure yourself.
They set it up for Alabama to go all the way to the national championship and win. Watch. Mark my words. Alabama will go to the national championship and win the national title, and Nick Saban will drive off to the sunset. I say drive because he's not riding no horse, that's for sure.
If they wanted to set it
up where it'll ride him.
If they wanted to set it up where Nick Saban had a clear path, Alabama would be playing Washington, because Washington at times this year against Oregon State, against Arizona State, there was a couple of games where when they pressured Michael Penix, they didn't play very well. And Alabama's got a really, really good defense. Their offense is shaky. And if they wanted Saban to have the clear path, That's what they would have done.
They
And
locked him
didn't.
up with the Michigan Wolverines, who love to choke, in those championship games.
I'll tell you what, if it don't happen for Michigan this year, they should just stop being a school. This is their best opportunity. This is their best opportunity to win because Alabama's offense is all right.
It's definitely filling right here because what's going to happen is if Michigan does win, Jim Harbaugh rides off to the sunset, goes to the NFL, and then they take that title away from him for cheating. It's perfect. It fits. We've seen this before.
They've already handed down the punishment. They've already suspended him, and that won't be on the table. They've already handed down the punishment for that. That's not going to happen.
We'll see. I mean,
I'm telling you, it's not going to happen.
More things could come out. More things could come out. I mean, if they cheated here, they've cheated in other ways too.
Oh, believe me, they have a whole month to figure it out again.
Trust me, Jeff.
We should all be rejoicing that this is the last year that we have to do this, because when they move to, is it 8 or 12 teams or whatever the number of teams is, when you get back down the line a little bit, I think right now number 9 is Missouri. I think.
I think so. At the start of the week, I don't know where they finish now, but yeah, it's
right.
possible.
But I know that it's either 9 or 10 or whoever it is has like 2 losses, and everyone else has 1 or none or whatever, right?
Right.
So it's like you're not going to give a shit and have this argument. You're going to go, you lost twice, dude. Like, give it up. You're not one of the best teams.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jeff.
So, this is the last year that we have to do this, fortunately, and I couldn't be happier that it happened to the worst fan base.
Goodbye,
the
Jeff.
Second worst fan base.
Goodbye, Jeff. Thank you.
They suck.
Thank you, Jeff. The only reason why they're the worst fan base is because I've rooted for them for years. Okay, since I was a child, he hates them. Just like Duke, he hates Duke too. Why does he hate Duke? Because I like him. That's what the worst fan base. They're the worst. Rex Ryan said on ESPN that the Patriot way exhausts players. Rex also added that Tom Brady was the only reason why the Patriots won during the time frame of success. Belichick responds to Rex Ryan. He says, Rex has never been with the Patriots. I'm not really sure what that means either. The Patriots were bottom 5 in least money spent this offseason. The Patriots have lost 3 straight games, allowing 10 points or less. First time in NFL history. The Patriots are 2-10, clinching only the second losing record for Bill Belichick in his last 20 years. First of all, Rex Ryan loves to dagger Bill Belichick because he looks horrible right now. His team looks terrible. The Patriots look terrible. And he knows that Tom Brady was one of the greatest quarterbacks he's ever seen because Tom Brady killed Rex Ryan defensively. He was one of very few quarterbacks that dominated Rex Ryan's defense. So I understand why Rex Ryan wants to take dabs and shots at the great Bill Belichick. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to stick up for Bill Belichick here. Bill Belichick drafted Tom Brady, did he not? There were many, many different teams and many different rounds that other teams could have drafted Tom Brady. As a matter of fact, Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. That means there were 6 times around that many different teams could have taken a dab on Tom Brady. He was too slow. He didn't have a quarterback's body. He couldn't run. He couldn't do this. He didn't have a strong enough arm. Boy, were they wrong. Now, Bill Belichick has not had 2 very good back-to-back seasons. There's no question the Patriots have not been what everybody thought they were going to be this year. I know Jeff didn't think they were going to be any good, but there were other people that thought the Patriots could sneak in and win the division this
including
year.
our friend Wes, that had them second in the division.
Yeah, a lot of people because of who Bill Belichick is. Rex Ryan is wrong. Rex Ryan has not coached, or he hasn't been a defensive coordinator in like over 5 years. Why is he speaking? Okay, if Rex Ryan wanted to take a defensive coordinator job, why didn't he get the Broncos job? He interviewed for it. He works for ESPN. He wants to speak for ESPN. Good for him. I respect Rex Ryan. I really do. Those were some of the best years as a Jet fan I love to watch. I love the clown show that he put out there, wearing the mop on his head, dancing around, prancing around, being the great Rex Ryan, sexy Rexy, getting tattoos of his quarterback on his forearm or whatever, his leg, and then, doing the things that he did on and off the field. Fantastic. Great. The Jets went to back-to-back AFC title games and choked. I can't sit here today and say that Bill Belichick is not the reason why the Patriots were a good organization, a good run, oiled machine, because he was. He drafted all those players. He brought all those players in. He was the GM practically for all those teams. Really, the first 5 years he wasn't. I think the first 5 or 6 or 7 years he wasn't. And then he took over, and he's been practically the GM/coach for the last 13 years for the New England Patriots. So to say that he wasn't the reason why, or there was no recollection on why the Patriots were as good as they were for the 20 years because of one player, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is a team game.
Yeah, and you also could say Bill Belichick is not liked by all his players and whatever. He was tough, disciplined. He was a tactic mastermind. Like he's
defensive tactic.
Defensively, when you had a top receiver, a lot of teams that had all these top receivers, Bill Belichick was the best at taking them out for a very long period of time. We talk about it all the time with Chad Ochocinco, him trash talking him, and he didn't have a catch in that game, or he had one catch, whatever it was. And we've seen that over the years too. He's done it with DeAndre Hopkins, shutting him down. We've seen it with Antonio Brown. We've seen it with a lot of these top receivers over the years, and Bill Belichick knew how to figure them out. Now, there were bigger ones he could not stop. I'm not saying he was able to do it with all the time, but there's a lot of coaches that were not able to do that. Even Rex Ryan, who coached this great defense with the Ravens, he didn't always have to be able to take out that one receiver. They lost to the Colts in the playoffs. They couldn't shut down Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison and those guys. And same kind of thing with the Jets. Like eventually the Colts and the Steelers beat them in the playoffs after they upset the Patriots. But nevertheless, Bill Belichick has managed the draft picks, managed the money end of it too. While he hasn't been able to draft wide receivers, I think that's hurt him in today's game. That maybe is one thing that they haven't involved in. But even 2 years they struggled. Last year, 8-9 they were with a bad quarterback play, bad receiver play. That's pretty hard to do. Not a lot of coaches.
Who was their offensive coordinator last year? I don't even know. You had this guy, you had that guy. Hey, this guy off the street was the quarterback coach, offensive coordinator.
Yep.
So I understand why Rex Ryan is doing it. He loves the fact that Bill Belichick is failing right now for the first time in 20 years. Great. It's great. To say that Bill Belichick wasn't responsible for those championships is ridiculous. Yes, you need a good quarterback. Yes, you need a good defense. Yes, you need a good offensive line or a semi-decent offensive line if you have a quarterback that can release the ball as fast as Tom Brady can. But who developed Tom Brady? Bill Belichick. So to sit here and say, hey, you know what? Bill Belichick is not really a good coach. He's really, what he has done over the years was because of Tom Brady. And I'm not saying Tom Brady wasn't great. He was, okay? But to say that Bill Belichick isn't the greatest, and I used to take shots at Bill Belichick. I didn't think he was the greatest. Honestly, he is the greatest NFL coach I've seen in my era and might be the great. You can argue that he is the greatest. And if he breaks Shula's win record, he's got almost every single record. So to say that he is not the greatest or one of the top 2 greatest coaches in NFL history is ridiculous. And Rex Ryan, and I'm going to say this very nicely to you. What did you do? Did you win a Super Bowl? Did you ever win a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator? The answer, no. You didn't win a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator for Baltimore. You were a coach on the bench. You were not the defensive coordinator for that team. And when you were the coach of the New York Jets for the 5 years that you were there, did you win a Super Bowl when you went to back-to-back AFC title games? The answer, no. So to say and take shots at a guy that was successful, yes, everything had to work right for him. Look at those defenses. Tom Brady wasn't great in some of those Super Bowls. His defense, he found these corners that played very well, scheming it right in those games. Who do you think made those schemes, picked those schemes to play in the Super Bowl? It was Bill Belichick. It wasn't Tom Brady. No, I want you to run this defensive scheme against this team. He doesn't know. He's a quarterback. He's going to go out there and play. So it's ridiculous that Rex Ryan came out and said this crazy garbage because you know what's going to happen. Bill Belichick's going to leave on his own recognizance in the offseason. He's going to go to the Chargers and a team that's never had any luck. He's going to go over there. He's going to have a quarterback in Justin Herbert, and he's going to find a way to win 10 or 11 games next year with that team and go all the way to the Super Bowl with that team and possibly win. And then what is Rex Ryan going to say about that? Well, you couldn't win without Tom Brady. Well, he did. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's craziness. But again, it is Rex Ryan. So it is a clown show.
And you also look at like the Patriots, the 4 years since Tom Brady's been rumored. I'm not saying that Tom Brady didn't outplay maybe without Bill Belichick the way that Bill Belichick did with the Patriots. But the Patriots, the first year with Cam Newton having all those injuries and was not a good thrower of the football, they were still 7-9. They still beat some good teams that year. 2021, they make the playoffs. They were a wild card team, 10-7. Last year, they were 8-9, almost made the playoffs, still beat some good teams. Like you were saying, Joe Judge and Matt Patricia as offensive coordinators and really bad quarterback play. I'm not saying that there are some concepts that in today's game might be outdated now, that maybe Bill Belichick tries to get too cute with or has to readjust. I'm not saying he's been perfect, but you have to admire that kind of thing. This is the first really, really bad year that's going to happen without Tom Brady. And like I said a couple months ago, we were talking about Bill Belichick being forced out by Robert Kraft. Like, you give Bill Belichick Jared Goff, you give Bill Belichick Geno Smith. I don't think the Patriots are sitting at 2-10 right now. Are they a playoff
on top
team?
of the division.
Yeah, are they a playoff team? I don't know. Maybe they're still a 6-6, 7-5 team.
No,
Something
they're
in
on a
that
tie.
range.
They have Geno Smith right now. They're on top of that division. They're right there with Miami. They're right there with Miami.
Regardless, they're a contender in that realm right now, in an AFC that's been struggling for much of the year and a AFC that's had a lot of injuries. They're right there. Like, Mac Jones is not a good quarterback. They don't have good receivers. They don't have a good offensive line. You give them those types of guys, they can at least somewhat make them where they're a contending team.
The Athletic reports that Roger Goodell wants to ban the Eagles' tush push, or the brotherly shove play. The Eagles have converted this play 86.2% of the time last season and 37 for 41 this season. The Eagles have converted 76.5% of fourth downs this season. No other team has converted over 70%. Goodell believes that this play has led to more injuries in the NFL this season, which many owners have disputed. Most of the owners that have been on Goodell's side have been owners of the NFC East teams. Any rule change would need 24 of 32 votes to approve. The Eagles, since Jalen Hurts became the starting quarterback in 2021, has converted this play at a 93.5% success rate. So this has been going on before Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, first of all, the tush push is a quarterback sneak. That's what it is. I know you're bringing in the extra offensive lineman to push forward, and probably, they're shifting the line and kind of pushing it up so they can get that extra yard. Fine. First of all, in the last, I would say 37 times I've seen the Eagles do that this year, has anybody gotten injured from it? The answer is no.
The Eagles,
I have not seen it. I don't even think I've seen it on another team.
No, the Giants had some, unfortunately.
But are they talking about that?
No.
Just because of the Giants?
Nope.
I don't understand. And honestly, why is Goodell trying to change these different rules? When Tom Brady had his knee get shot put it out, now you can't hit below the knees anymore. It's the Tom Brady rule. And I'm not attacking Tom Brady. It's just the way the NFL works. When a quarterback gets hurt, you can't put your fingers on him. If you touch a quarterback in the wrong way, or you put your body weight on the quarterback, it's a penalty. It's 15 yards. And it could ruin a game. We've seen it ruin a game in the fourth quarter. And it's been going on for years. Why all of a sudden? Because the NFL is trying to find ways to protect the quarterback. How about protecting the corners? How about protecting the offensive linemen that tear their knees out? How about getting grass and not turf? Why isn't the NFL taking care of that right now? Trying to find rules to change the tush push or the brotherly shove. It's ridiculous. It's redundant. It's stupid. It's dumb.
Yeah, and just because the Eagles are doing it at a historic success rate does not mean other teams have done it to that same clip this year.
Every team does it. They all do the damn quarterback.
And we've seen many teams
and
fail. And it fails because they don't have the best offense. They don't have the best offensive line in football, and they don't have a quarterback in Jalen Hurts that's 240 pounds or whatever he is.
And can obviously, I think he can, if I'm not mistaken, he can what do they call it? A squat
weight,
six,
weightlifting or
600.
whatever,
No,
yeah.
he squats 650 pounds and something like that.
Right.
I mean, you don't hear quarterbacks do that. I would say that Jalen Hurts is probably the strongest quarterback in the NFL.
Right. I think after Josh Allen, I think he's the second biggest too. So when you're judging that,
He's stronger than Josh Allen.
yeah, right. Even so, that's a big quarterback with a great offensive line, the best in the league when it's healthy, doing that. So you're going to ban it from the rest of the league to try to do that kind of thing. Here's an idea. Why don't you have a defensive player try to push a defensive lineman? Maybe you try to leverage it that way. I don't think we've seen a lot of teams try to do that. You could if you know the tush push is coming, maybe have a safety jump over like we saw Troy Polamalu do all the time. Try something else. I don't think they're trying to be creative against that kind of thing instead of trying to just ban the play completely like Roger Goodell's stupid mind likes to think.
It just makes me sick. It really does. And that, again, this is what Roger Goodell likes to do. He likes to bring in new rules and they don't work, and then they bring them back. Hey, why don't we ask Sean Payton? He knows all about that. They bring a rule in after the whole thing happened against the Rams, and the Rams go to the Super Bowl when the Saints should have been there. Right. So they brought a new rule in. 1 year it worked, and then everybody was complaining about it, and then they get rid of it. They discard it. This is the NFL. Why are you changing rules? The game, now I understand they're trying to protect the heads as well as they should. They should be changing the helmets, by the way. I know they changed it a couple of times, but it looks like the same helmet. To figure out a way that you're protecting the heads a little bit better. Now, they're teaching players to hit a certain way below the waist, not and that's another thing. It hurts it. Now, the defense has been better this year than we've ever seen it. But last year, the offense was so explosive. This year, it's all about the defense. And maybe because the teams are figuring out how to stop these great wide receivers, how to stop and how to use different packages to stop these top-end wide receivers. Nevertheless, Miami's not having any problems putting up those numbers. So I think that the NFL needs to step away. Roger Goodell needs to step away and stop complaining about one stupid tush push. It's not making a difference. What if they're calculating, the chemistry of this team, and they're calculating what this team is doing or what this tush push is doing when it comes to injuries. Why don't you worry about other ways of protecting the players? How about some grass? That's what I think the NFL should be worried about. These guys, these Achilles tendons, these knee injuries, these ankle injuries, or hamstring problems. Why are they having these problems? I don't know. Maybe because they're playing on cement. Mm-hmm. So that's it. Anyways. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, as we do this every single week, we have we have 15 minutes with them. We'll give them 15 minutes. Yeah. Our guys, our friend, Worldwide Wes and Derek Mountaineer Mountain here for Let's Parlay on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speeder, Mr. Blowin' Wind, Windmaker, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including The Loudmouth, which airs every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and listen to our local listings of shows, you go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And before our great guests, and we have a nice list of guests tonight, as we did with Jabba Chamberlain last night, and obviously our friend Mr. Musico. we have a very wonderful segment as we have Worldwide Wes and Derek Mountain. I said Mountaineer Mountain. Anyways, here we go. Let's parlay.
Parlay, ole, ole, ole. It's time for Let's Parlay.
Oh my God. The boys are back. Worldwide West, who had a fantastic weekend, as is Alabama Crimson Tide, look like they could head to another national championship. I don't want to see that, but yeah, good for you, Wes.
So I now that you mention it, I gotta show the shirt because we've been on this for weeks, and there's a really funny gentleman I follow on TikTok, but I don't know if you can read it. But
hold on, let me read this. I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide.
And I will stay on that bandwagon in support of my own financial well-being and accumulation of Bitcoins.
Him and his Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, listen, he's got a ton of Bitcoin, and when Bitcoin really, shoots up again, Worldwide West could, really be cashing it in. But yeah, Wes is hitting all his picks, and then Derek Mountaineer had a pretty good week too. Speedy, it was very good. So, Derek, are you guys ready for this? How are you, Derek? Are you happy about this Final Four with the NCAA?
I am. From an entertainment standpoint, I'm like selfishly as a spectator, I want the best games, and I don't think FSU is going to give us that. But I see both sides. I think I feel bad for them. They did everything in their power to give themselves in a position to make the playoff. But look, even outside the Jordan Travis thing, it's not that good a resume. I mean, it was LSU. It was a 4-loss Clemson team. It was a 3-loss Louisville team that lost at home to Kentucky. Those are their best wins. So I do think that defense would have given Michigan a lot of fits. I think that FSU defense is fantastic. I think that they will give Georgia some fits in that game. Assuming Georgia even plays their guys, we'll see who plays in that game. Like rolling into that game with Brock Glenn or Rodemaker, I mean that's a tough task. So I get it. And it's about money at the end of the day. What does the selection committee want to see? An Alabama team that, besides the Auburn game, they've really been rolling for about a month or so, or this FSU team that kind of limped to the finish line. So I get it.
I agree with everything Derek's saying, and I've heard the argument, for just conversation's sake on radio outlets, the Ohio State in the first playoff, and they did it with a third-string quarterback. But there's a big difference there. Yeah. 12 gauge came in the game and hung 59 points, and you're talking about Zeke Elliott, just a historically great running back. And I'm not saying that as an Ohio State fan, but I mean that's the only comp, and that's the one that's being used. But you throw it out, it doesn't mean anything.
All right, boys, you know what to do. Let's go. You got obviously your first 3 picks, and then you have your parlay pick of the night. We're going to go Derek this week first, and then Worldwide West. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, Derek, first pick. Let's go.
All right, I'm going to start with my Birds. I was on it last week. This is my favorite pick, sadly, and I was right. I just thought it was a horrible situational spot. I am going to go back. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts over 33.5 rushing yards. One of my favorite parts of sports betting is to always look at the buy low candidates. And I think this is a perfect time to buy low on Jalen Hurts rushing output this week. This year, he's been hovering around the low 40s, upper 30s because of his lingering knee issue that I think everybody's kind of on top of now. And I think it's a huge talking point this week. You see it on ESPN. Should the Eagles go more under center, more pistol, because out of the gun, Hurts isn't really a threat to run. And last week, he only had about 20 or 21 rushing yards against San Fran. Well, I think in terms of the spot, like I said, third game in 13 days, the team looked really tired from what I saw. And even with the low rushing output, Hurts is scrambling on almost every drop back last week. I mean, he's making to his legs. It didn't turn into rushing yards. And it's because, well, they played San Fran. They had a contained rush against him, especially like Bosa. They weren't teeing off on the edge. They were trying to contain his rushing output. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. I mean, those are two of the best linebackers in football that are spying him on certain plays, right? So now you're going against a Dallas defense that's a lot more aggressive. They like to get after the quarterback. Their second-level guys aren't nearly as good as San Fran, and they're an underdog here. They're a short underdog at 3.5 points, but this might be a game where Hurts has to throw the ball 35, 40 times again. So 33.5, we're buying low here. I'm going to take the over.
All right. Mr. West, your number one pick.
So I'm going to go back to a hoops play. And this is a really odd game. It's not a marquee matchup, but I'm looking at Oakland against Eastern Michigan. And I'm looking at Oakland had a game last night. Now they're going to play again tomorrow, but they had a game at home last night, and now they're going to travel to Ypsilanti, Michigan. This Oakland team had a pretty good stretch where they were East Coast, a lot of road games, 3 in a row. There's a kind of common opponent that they played. They both played Detroit a few weeks back, and if we're going to use that as a comp, Oakland hung 65 on them, and Detroit beat them and hung over 70 on them. I'm looking at this game, and it's a 5-point spread. It's about 50-50 where the tickets are, and I just think 5 points is too many. I'm going to take 5 points, and I'm going to take Eastern Michigan at home. I think this one's close. If for some reason there's a margin of like 7 or 8 points and Oakland's on top, I'm going to hit it again in live action and buy back in and take, the +8, +9. But I like getting the points in this situation. A team that played last night. Now they're going to travel East Coast, different time zone, play again. This Horizon division is really odd, and the MAC is really scrappy when it comes to hoops.
All right, Derek, give us your number 2 pick.
All right, my second pick, I do not like laying heavy favorites in the NFL, but alas, here we are. I'm going to go Ravens -7 on Sunday against the Rams. We're going to get this in the early slate. So I just really think everything is pointing towards the Ravens in this matchup. You have a dome team in the Rams that are traveling to the East Coast to take on Baltimore. This is a weather weekend. You can see it with the point totals and how low the point totals are. I mean, all the games in the Northeast are going to be affected by the rainstorms and the windstorms that are going to happen this weekend, but I'm not sure any more are going to be affected than this Baltimore game. We're seeing 22 to 25 mile an hour winds and gusts up to 35 to 40 miles an hour. Usually the rule, especially when you're betting unders, is anything above 20 miles an hour is going to affect the passing game. Between these two teams, that is going to affect the Rams a lot more. This is, like I said, a dome team. They live in 11 personnel. Even though Kyron Williams is back, they're not a run-first team. And ever since McVay has been there, and ever since he's had Stafford, they've been a pass-first, drop-back team. The Ravens are one of the best defenses against 11 personnel. The Rams line up in 11 personnel more than anyone in the league, and 93% of their snaps is what they're going to do. I don't really think McVay is going to bend from that philosophy. And the Ravens are going to deploy their 5 D-backs. And of the 5, I mean, maybe 3 of them are playing at Pro Bowl levels. And then you got a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who might be the best at his position in the league already. Geno Stone has had a resurgence here. I just think everything is pointing in the direction of the Ravens. They can run the football in this weather. The Rams aren't necessarily very strong run D. So I'm going to lay a touchdown with the home favorite, the Ravens, this weekend.
All right, Wes, give us your number 2.
I'm going to the NFL, and I'm going to go to the Indy-Cincy game. I am going to take 1.5 points on Indy. This line opened, and Indy was a favorite. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons I like this, but the defense of Cincinnati is just the bottom of the league in almost every category. I mean, they're 27th against the pass, 27th against the rush, yardage-wise in both of those. They're the worst team in the league when it comes to rushing the ball. But, I went back all the way to the Jacksonville game in Indy, and one of the stats that really talked to me was Indy on defense, on third down defense, has teams to under 45% victory or success rate. So something they're doing on first and second down is putting them in these third down scenarios. They held Trevor Lawrence to, I think it was 4 out of 17 or 4 out of 16 on third down. That stat is important because now it forces them to punt. The other one is, Gardner Minshew is throwing the ball 40 times a game. This is, if you don't pay attention to college or know where Gardner Minshew came from, you would think, wow, QB2 is throwing the ball that much. Gardner Minshew came from WASU. Mike Leach would let you know in a press conference, we are not here to run the football. I mean, so this is a quarterback that the team has adjusted the game plan to let him throw the ball because that's what he's used to. I think it's smart coaching. But this is a team that opened as the favorite. Vegas is smarter than all four of us combined on a bad day. And we're on a good day and they're on a bad day and they're smarter than us. And somehow public action has moved this to where Indy is a dog. But I love taking 1.5 points. I liked it laying 1 point. I think this team likes Gardner Minshew. Give me the Colts on the road.
All right, Derek, number 3.
All right, I'm going to stick in the Ravens game. I don't endorse parlays, and I know that's this segment, but I think this next pick is correlative of the Ravens -7 pick. So if you're of that philosophy that the Ravens are going to cover, that they're going to be in a positive game script and run the football a lot in this game, which is what I'm expecting, I think you should be on board with this pick too. And that's Keen Mitchell over 45.5 rushing yards. This is the undrafted free agent out of Eastern Carolina. And I like to call him 90% Devon Achane. This guy is lightning in a bottle. He's averaging 9.2 yards per carry. Given he's only had 29 carries on the year, but he's really only played the last 4 games of this season. He came into the season injured. Ever since he's been inserted in the lineup, John Harbaugh and Todd Monken have really made a point to make him more of a focal point. I think that's especially true with Mark Andrews out for the foreseeable future. They're going to be more of a run-first team. And it's really indicative of his snap count in the last 4 games. It has gone up in every single game. He a month ago saw 18% of snaps, went up to 24%, 36% of snaps. And then in their last game against LA on primetime, he saw 46% of snaps. So as Gus Edwards is really trending down, he's really just becoming their short yardage guy, which is fine. I mean, he can take up the goal line touches here. He can take up the 3rd and 1 touches here. That's fine. It's not going to affect this bet. Keen Mitchell is seeing most of the early down work, which is important. Keen Mitchell is a threat, is a home run threat on any time he touches the football. I mean, there's a guy with multiple 30, 40-yard runs already with a very small sample size. Weather is going to affect this game. Like I said, Rams run D is not very good this year. He could really hit this in 1 carry, in 1 huge run, but he's seen 8 and 9 carries his last 2 games. If he's in that ballpark, I mean, he's got to average around 5 yards a carry. I love that. So 45.5 yards over Keen Mitchell.
All right, Wes, number 3.
So you can call me a homer, call me whatever you want, but I'm going to lay 1.5 points and I'm going to take the Chiefs. And I'm going to do it for a variety of different reasons. They're banged up a little bit on defense. I mean, this Nick Bolton injury, I mean, that matters. And Tranquil's injury is going to matter too. But, you know, if you just look at the Chiefs coming off a loss, they lost to Detroit, came back and held, I think we'd all agree, a really good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence to 9 points. Let's go to their next loss. They lost to Denver. They come back and they hold the best offense in the league to 14 points in the Miami Dolphins. Then they lose to the Eagles. They come back. Their defense holds the Raiders to 17 points. So they respond to losses. Very rarely do they lose 2 games in a row. This is laying 1.5 points at Arrowhead. So somehow the line has shifted to taking away 1.5 points of what is kind of a standard point spread. The Chiefs, you know, as much as we want to talk about their offensive struggles, they are still top 10 in overall and in passing. So when these receivers start catching the ball, the league is in really serious trouble. Buffalo on the road, we know Josh Allen can and will turn the ball over, and I think they're just going to catch a really angry Chiefs defense. You know, the only fear I have, as a fan, I watched the Chiefs this year, and this last game when Mahomes got the ball and that final drive, I said to myself, they're not going to do it. And we've seen that twice this year that I can remember. Last year, Mahomes gets the ball with any time left. The Chiefs are winning this game. And so there is a different feel to the Chiefs kingdom, but laying 1.5 points with the Chiefs coming off a loss feels great.
All right, Derek, final pick, your parlay.
So I talked about buying low with the Hurts pick. I also like to sell high on certain guys. So week to week, you look for certain adjustments that happen based on previous play. And if the market maybe is overreacting a little bit, I'm going with Nico Collins under 75.5 receiving yards against your guys' Jets this weekend. I think there's a big time overreaction over what he's done the last 2 weeks. He's eclipsed 100 yards the last 2 weeks. Nico Collins has had a fantastic season. Third round pick, and he was kind of ailed by bad QB play with Davis Mills and, a little bit of Jeff Driscoll last year. But you saw the glimpses of what he could be, and I think he's really, you could see what his ceiling is with CJ Stroud. But I think there's going to be a learning curve with this Houston without Tank Dell. Tank Dell is out for the year with a fractured fibula. He's kind of the change of pace guy that really sets the tone. They move him around in the slot, and the outside, he's got speed that they really can't replicate with him out. So I think the field is going to feel a lot more restricted with Tank Dell out. And I think there's going to be a concerted effort to shut down Nico Collins. He's going to be double teamed and bracketed a lot more because he doesn't have someone on the other side like a Tank Dell that could take the pressure off of him. And the first matchup to figure that out is in the Northeast, in the wind, in the rain against the Jets defense. I mean, I think that's a nightmare matchup for this passing attack of the Texans who play in a dome, right? They play in a division with mostly domes and nice weather. So, look, he's going to get Sauce Gardner. He's going against DJ Reed, as Errol and Speedy can attest. He's no slouch at all as their second outside corner. So I think there's going to be a really, really tough matchup for Nico. 75.5 yards. I mean, you're asking a lot from him. So I'm going to take his under on Sunday.
All right, Wes, your final parlay pick of the week. You're on mute. Mute.
All right. I'm going to go. Sorry, I had to switch devices. This thing was threatening to reboot on me. So I'm going to the same game that Derek was just talking about. I'm going to the Houston and the Jets game. So both of these teams, their points average, and throw the weather out the window for a second. Houston is averaging about 23 points a game, and the Jets are averaging 14 points a game. And the last 3 games have been terrible for the Jets. But if you just simply combine those, that's 37 points. The over-under started at 37, and the action has moved it down to 33. So injuries aside, I think we can get 33 points out of what is proven to be. There's an argument for CJ Stroud to be MVP. I don't know that he's getting it, but you're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the league, at least performance-wise this year. So if both teams hold their average, we're going over 33. I think that all of the talk in the media and everything that's gone on, I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Wilson throws for 2 touchdowns in this game. It's very contrarian opinion, but it would be a very Jets thing to have happen. I'm not prepared to call a winner or a loser, but I think CJ is going to find a way to get him into the end zone 2 or 3 times. Now, bring the weather back into the picture. Well, that typically means fumbles or miscues or bad footing, interceptions. So a fumble happens in the wrong place. Well, that might set Zach Wilson up quite nicely for an easy 3 or an easy touchdown. So, we haven't really seen a ton out of this Jets running game in the last few weeks either. Like the offense has just been quiet. So I think Salah's a better coach than the blame he's receiving. I'm not calling him a great coach, but I like this game way better than 33 points. Wouldn't surprise me if we were around 40, 42 in this game, like a 24-16, 24-13 type of game. I'm going over 33 on this game. I think Zach could see the end zone twice.
Well, your guess is as good as mine. I'm going to predict he is going to absolutely look like a slobber knocker, and I think this game is going to be disgusting. I don't want to watch it. I will be forced to watch it, as you know, and it makes me sick to my stomach. Watching this team makes me want to throw up. So thank you for reassuring me that I'm going to watch a crappy game. So thank you, Wes. Thank you, boys, as always. We'll see you guys next week. You guys are fantastic. And let's parlay.
Always be cashing.
See you guys.
Derek and Worldwide West, and we have Russ waiting to come in. So why don't we go to a quick break? When we come back, I almost said we will have, obviously the founder of Pro Football Guru, Mr. Russell Baxter, here on the Sports Loudmouth.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Oh, man. What a great show, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you're listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Errol Marks. My co-host, Mr. Speedy. I am going to be winded, Petey. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including The Loudmouth, which airs every single Wednesdays and Thursdays. At 7 p.m. All you got to do to listen to the show is go to Worldwide Sports Radio Network, or you could do this, ladies and gentlemen. Check out our local listings by going to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Network. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our first guest. I know he's been waiting. He's been enjoying himself, I'm sure. And I'm sure he has a lot to say about the football season. We haven't spoken to him for a little bit over 8-9 months, Speedy, I think it is.
Something like that, yeah.
We're now talking to founder of Pro Football Guru, our friend, Russell Baxter. Russ, what's up, man?
Not much. How's your stomach, Errol?
Oh, man. I will say something. Before, when we were going to the break, I was showing everybody, I've been drinking these babies like it's nothing. And I'm surprised I haven't had to go to the bathroom yet on the show. So it's a 3-hour show, and I have not, you can ask my guys. We have my intern over here and one of our guys who's going to be doing our sports minute, and then Speedy over here. I have not left this chair for over probably 2 hours. So,
well, I'll just say this: hearing you talk about the Jets game, I don't think you need an intern. I think you need an internist.
I'll tell you what I need. I need a blindfold because I don't want to watch it. So,
well, just look at it as just an up and coming team against a team that has the longest playoff drought in the league.
Yeah, and what's crazy about it, and Rush, you could when Rodgers obviously collapsed in the first game of the season after 4 plays, everybody knew their season was over. There was no way the Jets were going to win with Zach Wilson. I don't know why Robert Saleh or Joe Douglas thought, hey, you know what we could do? We can hope that Aaron Rodgers can get healthy before the end of December, and maybe we're a playoff team. They should have had the opportunity to interview Carson Wentz. They didn't give him a chance. They should have had the chance to interview Matt Ryan. They didn't give him a chance. Instead, they settled to Tim Boyle. And where is Tim Boyle now? He's sitting at the gas station. So thank you to Tim Boyle and the New York Jets. I guess executives that they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. But nevertheless, let's get into it, because there's a lot of questions I have for you with the NFL season. Obviously, guys, you got to check out Pro Football Guru with Russell Baxter. He's fantastic. His stories, everything that they do over there at Pro Football Guru, they're fantastic. So, Russ, you look at the league right now, and there's a lot of questions. usually every single year you have that one team that really stands out that you're probably predicting that's going to go to the Super Bowl and win. And I can honestly say, even when the NFC, I know they have San Francisco and the Eagles, and obviously they're two dominant teams. And then even in the AFC, everybody thought Kansas City, but Kansas City honestly doesn't have the offense like everybody thought they have. I mean, they do have Patrick Mahomes, but I don't think they have a number one, and they have a bunch of number twos. I don't believe there is a guarantee for any team right now in the NFC and AFC to go to the Super Bowl this year. Am I right or wrong?
Oh, I think you're right. And we have seen every team with its flaws. And as great as San Francisco has looked, that 5-0 start, and now their last 4 games, they did have a 3-game losing streak in the middle of the season where they scored 17 points in every game. And their defense waffled a little. So every team has flaws. That's how the league is now. Having a team that is dominant is tough. I know the Patriots dominated for 20 years, but rarely did they have a quote unquote dominant team. The 2004 team I thought was pretty dominant. The 2016 team overcame a lot. And not just in the Super Bowl, but early in the season. We've seen, and it's funny because we've probably seen some teams with like the 2013 Seahawks and the 2015 Broncos that have dominated with defense. But we really don't even see a dominant defense right now. So I look at the NFC. Think about this. The NFC has 4 winning teams out of 16. 4. They have 5 6-6 teams. The Seattle Seahawks are to be probably getting flowers from the rest of the conference because they've allowed everybody back into the playoff picture. It's not that long ago, they were tied with San Francisco for the top spot. And now here come the Rams and here come the Packers. And, Atlanta's 6-6 in the NFC South. So, and Dallas, every once in a while lays an egg, but they've been incredible at home. Philly is waning a little right now. Look at all the points they've given up the last 2 games. Not just, the Buffalo game almost got away from them as well. So, and then you look over in the AFC, which the AFC has kind of dominated the interconference rankings this year, the interconference series. But you already talked about the Chiefs. They've lost, they lost already more games than they did all of last season. They were, remember, with the playoffs, they were 17-3. They've now lost 3 of their last 5 games, which is very obviously un-Chief-like. And get Buffalo this week. Buffalo, by the way, is won at Kansas City the last 2 years in the regular season. So it's full board. Maybe we get a total surprise this year. Maybe we get something we haven't seen in a long time. A team that's, like Miami or Baltimore, is in the Super Bowl, 11 years ago and so on. So there's going to be a lot to happen. And I'll just throw this in: the AFC South, which all appeared to be Jacksonville's. What happens if Jacksonville loses this week and Houston and Indianapolis win? 3, 8, and 5 teams.
So I wanted to ask about these quarterback contracts and also the quarterback injuries. We saw a lot of big contracts signed this offseason: Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, etc. And then we've also seen a lot of starting quarterbacks go down this year with non-contact and just freakish injuries. So what are your thoughts on that whole situation? Do you think it'll change the way maybe teams evaluate the quarterbacks?
Well, if you are building a team around your quarterback, I think you're flawed. I've always thought that. Okay. New England did it for a long time. Now, listen, they got a little assistance with Tom Brady and his financial situation. We all know how that worked out and so on. But you've got to try to build a complete team that can do a lot of different things. If your quarterback goes down and he's, everything you do is revolved around him, you're going to be in trouble. Just ask the Colts the year that Peyton couldn't play in 2011, with the neck surgeries and all that stuff. That was a total disaster. Look at the Jets this year, who put a lot of stock into Aaron Rodgers. Didn't necessarily. I understand that Joe Douglas has done some good drafting and so on, but when you are quarterback dependent and not team dependent, you're going, and that's why you see guys like Brock Purdy and you see guys who are support you. That's why you see Nick Foles win a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. Why? Because the Eagles have built their teams around their offensive and defensive lines. That's why they've been able to sustain what they do. I mean, inevitably, it comes down to the guys in the trenches. All those, think about this for a second. It took 57 years for a quarterback to lead the league in passing yards and win the Super Bowl the same year. Patrick Mahomes was the first player to do that.
Wow.
So, for all, different numbers here and different numbers there and so on, to me, that's incredibly relevant in what should be a team game. But by the way, I'll just remind you of something. Last year, and I want to say, was it Mayfield who did it twice for two different teams? We had 69 different starting quarterbacks last year. Wow. So we haven't gotten there yet, but we are certainly closing in. So, but everything you asked about the money, Petey, and just remember something. Quarterbacks get the big contracts, but the first guy who gets asked to restructure his contract when the salary cap kicks in or there's problems is the quarterback. Deferring money here, deferring money there, and so on. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. It'll be interesting to see how the offseason plays out, especially for some quarterbacks who did sign big deals and, could wind up being free agents.
As everybody knows, we are talking to founder of Pro Football Guru, Russell Baxter, friend of the show. He's been on the show quite a few times and knows his statistics and obviously studies football as good as any. He's as good as anybody in the business. Russ, you look at the league right now and you hear the Bill Belichick chant that Bill Belichick could be on his way out. I do believe he wants to pass Shula. If he does step away from the Patriots or the Patriots decide to part ways with him and they bring in Mike Vrabel if he becomes available, whatever happens, I've always said there is a team right over in Los Angeles that could use a coach as good as Bill Belichick, who has a quarterback there right now, stabilize the quarterback position. They just need the right coach to coach that team. I do believe that Bill Belichick, if he becomes available, will be heading to LA with the Chargers. What are your thoughts to Bill Belichick staying with the Patriots in the offseason, or does he flee and go somewhere else and has a chance to win somewhere else, just like Tom Brady did?
Well, I'll be curious to see how Robert Kraft handles this. It's obviously been a disappointing year for them. The last time they lost 10 games was Belichick's first year with the team back in 2000. I mean, he's had he's had 3 losing seasons in the last 4 years. But it will depend on that. Now, you bring up a good point about the Chargers because not only do they have the quarterback, Bill Belichick is a very detail-oriented guy. And the one thing about the Chargers we have certainly seen the last couple of years is details are an afterthought. 1 year is let's go for 4th down on every 4th down. Let's go for it. Last year, they got hot at the end of the year, but that all went right out the window when you blow a 27-point lead in the playoffs like they did. This year they've been like Noah's Ark. Lose 2, win 2, lose 2, win 2, lose 3, I think now. And then they finally came back and won last week and so on. So they're, to me, one of the 5 most disappointing teams in the league. There is certainly talent there. They've got a guy, Justin Herbert's had a good year. Keenan Allen's having a monster year. Khalil Mack is leading the league in sacks, and yet they're under 500. So I'll be curious to see what the Chargers do with that whole situation as far as Brandon Staley, because it's been a disappointment for them. Now, not everybody expects them to catch the Chiefs necessarily, but they have just been a real disaster in terms of details, losing close games, just finding ways to lose, squander games, and so on. And that's not the kind of thing you see from Bill Belichick team.
So any other coaches that you think could be on the hot seat this year? Buffalo's been a lot of rumors with Sean McDermott. You're looking at Dallas possibly with Mike McCarthy if they don't win in the playoffs again this year, even though they have a great team on paper. So any coaches that you think could be also gone besides Bill Belichick?
Well, the Bills have made it clear within the last week or so that Sean McDermott's not going anywhere. And even if they do miss the playoffs, I mean, he's taken into the playoffs 5 times in 6 years and did it even before Josh Allen got there. So you have to certainly take that into account. Jonathan Gannon's had kind of a rough year in Arizona, but understandably so. I don't think the expectations were necessarily that high. I think Matt Eberflus might be under a little scrutiny and so on. All the Bears have played better lately, even though they're still way back in the divisional race, and all the three teams above them are still in the playoff chase and so on. So you never know what's going to happen. Robert Saleh could be a little bit on the hot seat as well. So I'll be curious to see how it all plays out. Annually, we have like maybe 5 or 6 or 7 head coaching changes, promoting coordinators, bringing in young faces, and so on. It's been an odd year for the league. Offensively, there have been just spurts. Defensively, it's not like it's been necessarily great defense. It seems like it's been more inept offenses this year, with a few exceptions.
As everybody knows, we are talking to the founder of Pro Football Guru, Russell Baxter. Russ, you look at obviously the quarterbacks, and we mentioned some of the crap quarterbacks that we've seen. Kenny Pickett being one of them, as we see another quarterback playing and starting tonight that has been in the league for quite a few years. Zach Wilson, who is absolutely horrendous, probably the worst quarterback I've ever seen. And that says a lot about all the quarterbacks we've seen with the New York Jets. And I'm a Jet fan, so I'm just completely sickened. You look at the league right now, and there's quite a few quarterbacks that are coming out of this year's draft. And some people could say, Caleb Williams, who wants to be an owner of a team, or he wants to be a partial owner of a team, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, we've heard about Drake being a guy that the Patriots would be interested in, and probably some people think could be the second best quarterback in this class. Penix, all these guys, Bo Nix. Who do you think, obviously what you've seen so far in college football, could be the prototypical quarterback that will achieve in the NFL?
Well, I don't know if there is necessarily a prototypical quarterback in the NFL anymore. And so it depends on, the pocket passers have certainly waned a little and so on. We don't see as many being versatile, being able to run the football. You think about some of the guys who came out this past year. The Colts took a big chance on Anthony Richardson, who was a very, very raw talent, but probably more known. Now he's hurt, unfortunately, because of that raw talent. Depending on, listen, Caleb Williams, not this year necessarily, but the year before, just showed some amazing skills. And even though the USC has no defense whatsoever, and he's been a different young man this year as well.
Yeah,
I still would think that he, talent-wise, fits all the bill for what you're necessarily looking for, especially today and so on. But I don't know, prototypical is an odd word now, because the quarterback position has changed so much in the last couple of years. And as we have seen, teams invest first-round picks in quarterbacks. And then, you see somebody like Jalen Hurts, who was a second-round pick, and almost, while they still had Carson Wentz there, and he's emerged as a big star in the league. Bryce Young was thought to be the better guy over C.J. Stroud. We look at Stroud. Stroud looks like he's been playing in this league for 3 or 4 years. So it's hard to figure. And then, then you got Brock Purdy, who's Mr. Irrelevant, who has become incredibly relevant. And for people who thought he was a little iffy, and more a product of his supporting cast, he showed pretty impressively what he could do last week at Philadelphia after a little bit of a rough start.
So I know you're a big Hall of Fame guy. Any guys that you think deserved it finally, and maybe this current voting system should get in?
Well, we're down to the 25 finalists right now. And I'm sorry, I should say the 25 semifinalists as far as the modern guys. I mean, the older guys, the seniors committee, obviously they've expanded the seniors committee in recent years. And this year it's Steve McMichael, and it's Randy Gradishar, and it's Art Powell. So those are usually guys on the seniors committee that usually think you're going to get in. As far as the modern guys go, Julius Peppers, to me, is a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Jared Allen's been waiting a couple of years And I think he's certainly worthy to get in there as well. There's always seems to be a wild card in the mix. We have our share of receivers, and the receivers seem to weight more than anyone else every year. So I'll be curious. I think a month from now we'll get down to the finalists for the group, and regardless of who gets in and the politics involved and so on. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Canton. It's something I look forward to every year.
13, yeah, I was there.
Yeah, and I it's funny. I enjoy doing my countdown to the various things. In fact, on Instagram the other day, it was 70. You'll enjoy this, Errol. 73 days. Joe Klecko.
Yes.
Who liked my post? Joe Klecko.
Nice. I love Joe, and I'm so happy for him. He deserves to be there. He should have been there 10 years ago. I didn't understand how the committee would leave this guy out for what he's done and the multiple positions he played and the dominant force he was as a defensive player. I didn't understand that. And I wanted to go. I know so many people that were there this past year. Me and Josh Silverberg and Speedy were supposed to go. Josh kind of backed out. I wanted to see Revis go into the Canton. I really wanted to see that live. But hey, and I would have went to the game to see Aaron Rodgers, not play. So anyways, as everybody knows, we are talking to founder, pro football guru Russell Baxter. Last question for me, Russ. The New York Jets, if they lose out for the rest of the season and they fall into the top 3, okay, and everybody keeps talking about this offensive line draft where you can get Alt, you can get this guy, you can get that guy. You have a chance to get Caleb Williams if he falls to 3, okay, and he sits behind Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers decides to play 1-2 years. Do you draft a quarterback? Do you draft an offensive lineman? Do you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. if he's sitting there at number 3?
I'll tell you, Marvin Harrison Jr. is very intriguing. Okay. And, a lot of times you don't necessarily see wide receivers go super high. I remember Calvin Johnson went number 2 one year. In the history of the common draft, there's only been 2 go first overall. One was Irving Fryer and the other one's Keyshawn Johnson. All of them would help them because obviously their flaws. But I wouldn't be shocked if they did draft a quarterback and cut ties with Zach Wilson and gave Caleb Williams, depending on how much time he needs to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. And we don't know how healthy Aaron Rodgers is going to be a year from now and so on, or how long he can stay healthy. So I think that'd be certainly a worthwhile investment for them. So, and who knows if they do lose, and if they don't lose out, and then they're 4th or 5th, would they take a chance and move up in the draft and give up some of the future to get one of these big prospects?
The last question, just right now, Super Bowl pick. Who do you think it would be right now?
Not the Jets, that's for sure.
I'm lousy at that. Let me think. Florida State. Got to get him in there somewhere, right? Miami intrigues me because their defense is starting to play better. They have their critics, they have their flaws, and so on. Baltimore's running the ball, they're sacking the quarterback, they're not giving up points. Miami and Baltimore play each other late in the season this year, so that'll be interesting. I'm not going to be shocked if the Dallas Cowboys make it from the NFC. I'm just not going to be shocked. And I know they have their critics. They haven't been to the title game since, much as the Super Bowl, since 1995. They haven't won. It's funny. They haven't won the Super Bowl since 1995. And the 49ers haven't won the Super Bowl since 1994, but the Cowboys seem to get more flack. Maybe because the Niners have been to a couple since then, but they also lost a couple since then. So, now how about Dallas, Miami? And we're going to see that in a couple weeks anyway. We'll have a rematch from Super Bowl 6.
Interesting. Well, that's cool. I like that.
I'll just throw it out there for now. Give me 20 minutes. Call me back.
Ross, if hopefully you don't get winded like Speedy and wind up sitting on a toilet for 20 minutes, wondering why he's sitting on a toilet. But listen, if it happens and it's Miami and obviously the Cowboys, I would love to see that Super Bowl. And I think Dak Prescott, to me, right now, if the season were to end, He is the MVP of the league. He's had a sensational year. He's done everything he needed to do this year to really, after what last year showed, and I think that had a lot to do with Kellen Moore. He's over there with the Chargers. He's probably going to get fired. And you see Mike McCarthy takes over the offense, and he's more efficient, and this offense is more efficient. So we really appreciate you, as always. We'll get you on a lot sooner than later. We love you. Keep up the good work. You're fantastic and one of the best in the business. Thank you, Russ.
I appreciate it, guys. Talk to you soon.
Russell Baxter, pro football guru, fantastic personality, and he knows his stuff, and I'm happy to have him on. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't had him on for over a year. This guy is a busy bee, and one of my mentors, a guy that I have a tremendous amount of respect, love his son, and I'm looking forward to getting him on the show. We will be talking to Nationals radio play-by-play broadcaster, our friend Charlie Slows, here on the Sports Loudmouth.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Oh, I love this track. Sometime I got a good feeling. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Mr. Windbag himself, Speedy. Petey, go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth, which airs every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to check out our local listings is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're working on building a new website. Our website's beautiful, but I have some new plans on building and making our website really stick out even more. So stay tuned for that in the new year. Very excited. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say something. He's been waiting, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for this guy. And shout out to Russell Baxter for waiting as we were doing Let's Parlay. This guy is one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to baseball. And again, a guy that knows the game as well as anybody I've ever met or had a conversation with when it comes to baseball. And he knows a lot about this Soto guy, as we know him as Mr. Slows himself. We are now talking to Nationals radio play-by-play broadcaster Charlie Slows. Charlie, what's up, bud?
How are you guys? Who would think that Juan Soto was traded again? And, I had this thought today. I don't think this will happen. But should the Yankees in 2024 somehow of a year like the Mets in 2023, could he get traded again at the deadline as a guy walking out the door as a free agent?
I hope not. Okay. I hope this is a good year for the New York Yankees because Brian Cashman wants to make New York the Mecca of baseball. I really thought they have been the Mecca. And by the way, when you use Mecca, that's basketball. You don't use that for baseball. So, however way Brian
using that phrase hasn't worked out very well lately for the Knicks.
No, but the Knicks are actually a pretty good run organization with Leon Rose right now. They're playing good basketball. They found Jalen Brunson, who everybody was questioning when they brought him in, and they gave him a good, affordable contract. And boy, oh boy, has it paid off for the New York Knicks. But we're not here talking basketball. We're here talking some baseball. And by the way, you started your career in basketball, so
this is true. You see any of those pictures over this way? Actually, let's do this. I'll show you these pictures first since we brought it up. This is like from another life. I'm going to take this up right here because these are like, when people come here, these are the most popular pictures that are on my shelves.
All righty. Look at that. Look
you recognize those guys?
I recognize the guy on the left side.
Madhu Bold and George Murasan?
Yes, sir.
I was a tall guy in the middle.
You mean you were the small guy in the middle?
Right.
There's Michael
People
Jordan.
ask me, how tall are they? I said, no, how short is the guy in the middle? Then there's me with Michael Jordan. But that's another life.
Yeah.
And that's a little Lou Piniella should have got one more vote, right? He should be
Oh, Charlie with his humor. But let's get into it. I think Juan Soto is one of the best players in the world. There's no question that he is. We all know that you know a lot about him as he helped you guys win a World Series. He was the MVP of the World Series. He's a sensational player. The question is, the Yankees are still unsure if they can re-sign him in the offseason. Brian Cashman is really throwing whatever he wants to throw on this, thinking that they can re-sign him. And by the way, every single player that has been up for a contract or the Yankees have brought in to renegotiate a new contract, they usually land their guy. So it's not something that the Yankees usually lose a guy that is already there. So
even if you couldn't sign him, but you were able to win a World Series, then it's all worth it. Because you think about the guys that you signed the long-term contracts and you're hoping you win at least one time. And you might have signed them for these days 10, 12, 13 years. You know, it's interesting because I thought after the move San Diego made last year, and I didn't think they needed to acquire a shortstop, but they did and gave him a monster contract. And then Machado could walk at the end of the year. They didn't let him walk and sign him to a 10-year plus bigger deal than he already had, a $300 million deal. And at that point, I was like, they must know they're not going to be able to sign Soto. You just spent so much money on all these other guys. I mean, nobody had more of these 10-year plus $300 million contracts than San Diego. So to me, it wasn't surprising that if they didn't win at some point when you're losing Blake Snell and you're losing Hader and Lugo, that you're not going to have enough pitching. And so it made sense that they made the deal. You know, they tried to win with Soto thinking they would have him for 3 pennant races when they acquired him. It turns out it's only 2. And they probably didn't get back as much as what they traded to the Nationals.
There's no question they didn't get it. But Michael King is a special player. The Yankees know they gave up a good player who was, I believe, at one point, the best closer in baseball when he took over at the closing position. They decided to move him in the rotation in the second half because they knew they weren't going to make the playoffs. They wanted to see what they had with his talent and what he can throw. He's got one of the better, I guess you could say, sliders in the league. He throws it efficiently, and he's pretty dominant with it. I didn't like it because this is a rental. If Soto decides to step away, you're talking about a guy that could be a future Cy Young winner, one of the better closers in the league, and he's on an easy $1.5 million contract where he can renegotiate his deal in the offseason or even before the season starts. They can sign him for a 5 or 6 year deal, and the Yankees lose one of their best talented young pitchers in Thorpe as well. this is what bothers me. It's a rental, and you don't know if Juan Soto is going to re-sign.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. But when you look at where the age of Judge and Garrett Cole, 32, 33 years old, they're right in the middle of their prime now. This is your chance to win. And when you look at what the atmosphere was like at Yankee Stadium in the second half of last year, it wasn't good.
I was there.
You had a lot. I mean, the Nationals went in there and beat them 2 out of 3. And even then, Michael Kay asked me, and during that series, the Yankees TV broadcaster I went to college with at Fordham, do you think Soto could handle New York? So, I mean, people were talking about it back then, thinking whether they would trade for him, whether they would sign him when he became a free agent. Nothing phases Soto. I mean, you saw the big stage he was on coming in at 19 years old. His first game at Yankee Stadium, he had 2 home runs. One of them cleared the bullpens by 100 feet in right center field. And then
I was at the game, by the way.
What he did in 2019, the postseason, the huge hit off Hader, home runs off Kershaw, decisive game of the division series with the Dodgers. And then, he homered off both Garrett Cole and Verlander, titanic shots in the World Series in Houston. Nothing phases him. So, New York's he's made for this. It doesn't hurt that you have a huge Hispanic fan base. He has family in New York from the Dominican. He's made for this.
I know he grew up a Derek Jeter fan. I mean, I was reading some stories about him. He had a lot of respect for Derek, and I know in his mind he loved New York, and this was a place that he was looking at if he became available. But my question for you is, and I'll tell you a quick story. I was at the game this year with obviously San Diego and the Yankees. I was sitting there right behind Juan Soto, right exactly. Me and my girlfriend were right there in the second row of the bleachers, and we're sitting right back there. And these 5 idiots are standing behind him, calling him all these names, saying he sucks, you're no good, you're never going anywhere, blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, you do realize that he could be a Yankee in the future. What are you screaming at him? And by the way, he was an MVP. He won a World Series. How many World Series have we won since 2009? What are you talking about? And they told me, shut up, sit down. I said, you'll see. I guarantee you the Yankees are going to make a move for him. He's a Yankee in a year or 2. You're an idiot. Get out of here. And half the bleacher creatures were saying the same thing. Shut the hell up. And now, look, he's a Yankee. Where are those idiots? I guarantee you this year we're going to be sitting there. Next, I'll be in the bleachers. I'm going to see the same 5, 6, 7 stupid idiots. And I'm going to say, hey, by the way, where's Soto now? Oh, that's right. He's a Yankee.
They should all learn from Mets fans. When Shohei Ohtani came to Citi Field, they were all cheering for him.
Right. But those are the same people if Soto's playing the outfield and he's not fast and he's not a great outfielder. And if he doesn't make a great play when they need it to, they'll be the first ones to boo him just like they do anybody else. Those are the same idiots.
Yeah, so I want to ask about the contract for Juan Soto, no matter if it's the Yankees or somewhere else, because he turned down the 15-year, or I think it was, $450 from the Nationals last year. And
14 years, 440.
14 years, 440. Okay, so he turned that contract down. Obviously, he's 25 years old. He's been really durable throughout his career, so definitely the longevity probably is not a concern. But what type of range do you think, one, he's going to want, Scott Boras is going to want, and is going to be realistic across the league?
Well, it's going to be interesting. So let's wait and see what Ohtani gets this year. Now, obviously, different kind of player. If Ohtani's going to pitch again, people look at him as like 2 players in one. Let's see. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries now, so I'll believe if he's the same pitcher when I see him be the same pitcher. But you're talking about $500 million contract. Soto will be. This will be his age 25 year. So a free agent, first year as a free agent, he'll be 26. How many years are you going to give him? It's interesting that Bryce Harper signed to that big deal with Philadelphia through age 39. Boras was floating Harper wanting an extension at the winter meetings. And he's still very early in this deal, which when you talk to Bryce and Boras, they felt like all the money the Phillies gave him paid for itself in the first 2 years by all of the tickets they sold, merchandise, just all the money they made off him coming to play there. It's interesting. There's going to be a lot of money to be made off Soto jerseys. There's going to be a lot of endorsement monies for Soto in 2 languages. I guarantee you that, Hispanic sponsors with the amount of Hispanic broadcasting in New York, this is going to be a field day for him.
We are talking to Nationals radio play-by-play broadcast, our friend Charlie Slows. It's so funny, and Hal Steinbrenner spoke yesterday after the trade exactly went through. After Jabba was on our show, it finally went through. It was closed, sealed, and delivered. The Yankees made the trade. Hal came out and said that it doesn't matter. He will spend over $300 million for Juan Soto and go after Yamamoto. So it looks like Hal will do anything he has to keep Soto there with the Yankees, especially he's one of the best young power hand left-handed hitters in baseball. And that's something that the Yankees have been craving for. There's a question I have for you. You look at this coming off season with the talent that's going to be available next year. Soto's going to be available. You have Free, you have Burns, all these different guys. There's a ton of great talent. Everybody keeps talking about this year. Ohtani's really the only big name available. I mean, there's a couple of pitches, but I mean, obviously Snell, but there's really nothing. It's next year that everybody's going to be talking about the Mets. Where do you see right now the power of the league going? Do you think it's the National League is moving to the top, or is it the American League now that Soto's there in the American League East, and now it's going back upwards for the American League?
Well, we'll see if Baltimore, with a lot of their young players, can duplicate what they just did. Tampa Bay is almost like every year's college team that they have to make up a new team to a degree every year because you're talking about trading Glasnow now because where he is contract status-wise. Rosarena, they're talking about trading because where he is in proximity to free agency. And then they're always trading to get players who have option years so that they can control them, pitchers they can send down, other pitchers they can bring up, and that they operate differently. Nobody's been able to copy what they did, but I mean, Baltimore lost for enough years that they had so much talent now that with the players that really came on for them, and Rutschman and Gunderson, if they have enough pitching, if they pitch well enough, they added Kimbrel to close, although I think Kimbrel is definitely on the downside of his career at this point. If they do that again, and Toronto's gonna be interesting because supposedly Toronto's one of the 2 teams that Ohtani that we know met with. I'm in Florida in the Tampa Bay area. Toronto trains in Dunedin, and they flew in here before the winter meet or during the winter meetings. Before that, he had a meeting with the Dodgers, who, on no uncertain terms, I stood on the field at Dodger Stadium in May of last year talking to Dave Roberts. And I said, "Are you guys loading up for to go after Ohtani?" He goes, "In no uncertain terms, absolutely." And that's why their DH from last year was non-tendered, and he's sitting out there. Maybe goes back to the Dodgers if they don't get Ohtani. So I think it's the Dodgers have the best chance to sign him if he wants to stay on the West Coast because they've kind of orchestrated their payroll to have room to put him in. It's going to be really interesting to say. From year to year, they do the power rankings that started in football and basketball and kind of translated that to baseball. But with baseball, such a long season, it's hard to say. Who predicted Arizona, right?
I did, by the way.
But 84,
I did. 84, I had Texas.
Right. But 84 wins, no one thinks is a World Series winning club or is a team that gets to the World Series. But it's so different now with the possibility that Tampa Bay and the Oakland Stadium situations are closer to being settled, and those teams will be in Vegas and staying in Tampa Bay, or closer to expansion. Or if that happens, you're going to have 2 16-team leagues and probably realignment in divisions. Maybe you're going to have 4 divisions in each league. So, and that means 2 more teams will be in the postseason. So now it starts to become a tournament like, the NBA and the NHL. You just got to get there. And as we saw this year, the length of the baseball season, who would have thought the way Tampa Bay started that they wouldn't be a strong team at the end of the year? But they lost McClanahan. They lost other people. They lost their shortstop who may never be able to play again. and then you're not the team that you were the entire year. Who would have thought the way Atlanta just mashed everybody? I mean, literally, offensively, just mashed everybody throughout the year. And then with the Nationals, we faced Atlanta the last 2 weekends of the season, and Fried got a blister, and Charlie Morton injured a ligament in his index finger. That's 2 starters down. They went out in the first round of the Phillies. So you know it's hard to say. No matter how many games you win in the regular season, that's your goal, to win your division and not have to play in the wild card round. But nothing's guaranteed. I think the healthiest teams win in the end, especially if they have enough pitching. But between guys, I can't stand having bullpen games in the postseason. Games 3 and 4 of a league championship series and the World Series. We're going with a bullpen game tomorrow. Come on. In our lifetime of being fans, would we ever think of something like that? We're going to have a bullpen game in the World Series.
The wave of the future, baby. Wave of the future.
I'm hoping that it's a temporary wave and that we're going to develop more starting pitchers who can go deeper into games. Even, Brandon fought 70 pitches in 4 innings plus, and they took him out. The manager has said now he regrets that and he would never do that again. But he said he had never been in that situation before. I'm like, who cares? It was lights out.
So I want to ask about the rule changes in baseball this year. A lot of controversial ones. Do you think in the full year now, what do you think the impact has been for how you build your teams and like who did well versus not?
Well, which rules are you talking about to go with first?
Well, first, the pitch clock, I think, was the biggest one, and also the
pitch clock's the greatest thing they ever did.
Ooh.
I love the pitch clock.
Right.
It changes what you do as a broadcaster, because a lot of the things you might talk about are stories that you don't have as much time to work things in because the pitch is coming.
Or eat the hot dogs that you want to eat, right?
All of it. Well, anything you wanted to do, there's so much less dead time. But, I mean, we were getting to the point with pitching changes and how long pitchers took to throw the ball. We were having the last few years before the pitch clock, there were times in spring training where I'm doing a 3.5-hour game. It starts at 1:05, 4:30. The game's not over. A spring training game is just brutal. So I thought it was great. Even with the pitch clock, the Nationals moved their game time, their night games up to 6:45. A lot of teams moved to 6:35 last year. We're looking at a chance night games where you could go to a game in 2.5 hours. The game could be over at 9 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30. So you're taking kids to a game on a weeknight that could actually possibly get home before midnight. The game's over. And, once the rule I don't like, of course, is the free runner at second in extra innings. But that's another thing to assure that the game doesn't go long. In hours and hours of extra inning games. I was hoping they wouldn't do that for at least like 2 or 3 innings. Then, okay, we get to the 11th or 12th inning, put in the free runner. But at least let's try to have a real ending of real baseball. But the pitch clock was great. I'm glad they didn't go away from it in the postseason. I'm glad they stayed with it just the way they did it in the regular season. I thought that was great. It'll be interesting now. They're talking about in the makeup of the rosters. The other thing that they, even before the pitch clock, that they introduced for the smaller rosters, 26 through the last month, you could have 28 in September. That made things different for teams who weren't in contention. Like the Nationals had some pitchers with inning limits that you wanted to shut down. Well, when you had a 40-minute, you get 40 guys in the big leagues in September, you just shut the guy down and you have other players you brought up, but you can't just take a guy off your roster. There isn't a rule for that. Players Association is not going to let you send a guy down or put a guy on the injured list that's healthy. So that's something that they may work out, or having some type of taxi squad in September for players that are pitchers are on innings limits, coming back from injuries, that sort of thing. But the other thing they're talking about is reducing the amount of pitchers that you could have on the roster to try to encourage having starting pitchers that could go deeper into games. Max Scherzer proposed this to me when he was still with the Nationals a few years ago, because he hated it also. He prided himself on, a quality start to him was never 6 innings when he was in his prime. He wanted to pitch a complete game, or at least 7 or 8 innings, get close. And he said, if pitchers don't learn this in the minor leagues, go to a 6-man rotation at AAA. Make these guys throw 100 to 120 pitches. So you don't have what happened with Seattle, where you have a starting pitcher who the manager left in, Scott Service, get criticized by his own player, who gave up the lead in the 7th inning and said to reporters after the game, well, I was at 90 pitches after 6. I shouldn't have been out there in the 7th inning anyway. How could you say that? But that's what it is, because he's never thrown more than 90 pitches.
We are talking to national radio play-by-play broadcaster Charlie Slows. And by the way, World Series ring and champion Charlie Slows. He has a ring. He actually showed us his ring over the last couple of years. We've had him on the show. It is fantastic. And congratulations to you. I mean, not many broadcasters get an opportunity to win one of those rings. But, it's so interesting. Trevor Bauer is a name that a lot of people have been bringing up. He played in Japan this past year. He looked pretty damn good. I think he's still one of the better arms, what we've seen in the past 10 years, but also one of the biggest mouths in the past 10 years. And, he likes to do crazy things in the bed. So, as we all know, what are your thoughts of a team giving Trevor Bauer another chance to play in the major leagues? I do believe he should and deserves an opportunity. By the way, he has been, obviously, he's been pushed away, and all the different things that he was being pressed on is not true as far as what we've heard. And the court system pretty much threw it away. What are your thoughts about Trevor Bauer getting another chance?
It's interesting. Sometimes the public opinion court is stronger than what the real thing can be. Major League Baseball didn't want him around, and the Dodgers could not get out of that contract because he didn't, like you say, get convicted of anything. So they ended up just eating the contract. He got all of his money. So for another team to sign him, even now, if you wanted to sign him, you could sign him for a lot less money because the Dodgers are still paying him. So I wouldn't say never to anything, but I think after his time in Japan, we're not hearing much about any kind of interest that I'm sure his agents are pursuing, because everyone needs pitching. Nobody has enough pitching.
So I want to ask about the sticky substance controversy this year. Max Scherzer, you mentioned before, was one of the first ones that was caught, and he was the most vocal about it. And then there were a couple other guys after that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he wants them to develop a baseball that is tacky enough that nobody has to add any kind of substance to be able to get a better grip. But he was one of the first people that said when they wanted to enforce what they wanted to enforce, he said somebody's going to get hurt really bad. Even the hitters don't want the pitchers to not have a good grip with whatever they use, spin rate or not, because they don't want to get killed. There are a lot of pitchers without that cannot command the baseball. And especially if you have a rainy day or early in the year, late in the year when it's really cold, they have a harder time gripping the baseball. Something they've done in Japan. They have a ball that's tacky, so you don't have to add substance. But that the Major League Baseball's looked at that, and they did not think that was good enough. And the other ones that they have tried in the lower minor leagues and the Atlantic League, they have not developed one good enough yet. So they're still behind on that. And so you're still going to have pitchers being checked, as strange as that keeps looking every time. The umpires have to do that after a half inning or when a reliever's coming in from the bullpen.
As everybody knows, we are talking to Nationals radio play-by-play broadcaster Charlie Slows. Charlie, there are two players playing for a specific team that you know very well how and who they are. Bryce Harper being one of them, and Trey Turner being another, who went all the way to the NLCS, failing to go to the World Series. Two sensational players. That's a place that Soto could be looking at, that if there's availability to go over to Philadelphia to play with his two buddies, that could happen. I mean, we've seen crazier things. What are your thoughts of the season Trey Turner had in the second half and Bryce Harper coming back from his injury? And do you think this Philadelphia Philly team will ever get over the hump to win a World Series?
Well, they had some injuries to deal with and waiting for Harper to come back. They lost Reese Hoskins at the spring training on a simple pop-up that he backed up on, and just bad luck blew out his knee. And I really thought that they would bring him back, but after seeing Harper play first base, the issue that they have is Schwarber is not great in the outfield, and his knee. Remember that he injured his rookie year with the Cubs and had reconstructed. It was really bad injury. They made it back to be able to DH in the World Series with the Cubs winning. His knee will bark when he's in the outfield every day. So they really want him to be the almost full-time DH. So to do that, Harper needs to play a position. And if he's playing first, so that you could play Castellanos in right, you could have put Harper back in right and Castellanos in left and re-sign Hoskins. I mean, that's how they had it to begin with before Harper got hurt, before Hoskins got hurt. But that wasn't the decision they made. I was hoping the Nationals might be able to sign Hoskins, but maybe they don't feel they're ready to make a big commitment based on where their other players are in development coming through their system. But Turner did not have a good first half of the year. He had a great run over the final couple of months of the year, and then he really didn't hit as much in the postseason, but that can happen to anybody. Turner's a great player. I'm sure he'll bounce back. He was very good with the Dodgers in the time he was there. I was stunned that the Dodgers had no interest in re-signing him. And I remember his year with the Dodgers, his walk year, early in the year they played the Nationals. I said, and this is before the Nationals traded Soto. And I said, are the Dodgers going to re-sign you? He goes, I don't think so. And he was wanted to be on the East Coast. His wife's from South Jersey, so Philadelphia ended up being a perfect scenario that way. But I knew he wanted to have spring training in Florida, so that works out because he's from Florida. And so that worked out to be really a good spot for him. And just coincidence that he was teaming up with Harper again. But it's interesting. Scott Boras is going to – I would be stunned if they can manage to sign Soto before he's a free agent. I just think that you've come this far with Soto that he's going to want to max it out and certainly have a bidding war for him. And like you said, though, the Yankees kind of lay in the weeds like they did with Aaron Judge and ended up getting him to take less money to stay with the Yankees than he would have gotten with maybe San Francisco or somebody else.
Charlie, I bet you couldn't even name the last Yankee the Yankees had control of that went to free agency and the Yankees lost. They don't usually lose players.
This is different. This is a Boras guy, and it's not a guy who's played for the Yankees, drafted by the Yankees, played his entire career with the organization. And it's Scott Boras. So it's
who makes a lot of deals with the Yankees, by the way. Yeah. The Yankees love deals.
Hey, when the Nationals were winning, he had like 8 or 9 players, plus half their farm system. Boras was around all the time like he was an owner of the team. He had so many of the Nationals players that he was representing.
Jabba told us a story about Scott Boras, how he met Scott Boras in the first time of his career. He was sitting in a locker room, and Scott Boras is talking to all the players, and he says, Scott Boras, and Jabba's so funny because he's straightforward. He didn't even hide behind anything that he said. He says, Scott Boras is one of those guys that you could sit down and he'll show you a penny and he'll try to tell you it's $100. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that'll show you something for you to believe it, and then you actually believe you're worth that, and he will sit there and actually show you the money when it comes down.
I will tell you this. Every year when we play in Los Angeles, the Dodgers, or in San Diego, or definitely in Anaheim, because his offices are not far from the Big A. And from the time that I met him, I believe, when they signed Strasburg after he was drafted. That's when I met Scott Boras. And he is one of the most fascinating people to talk to. And basically, I would say to listen to, because he's going to do most of the talking, but he's got any question, any subject you talk about, he's got a whole formula. and all these scenarios backing up why he's saying what he's saying. When the Nationals traded Soto and the players that they got, he said, I haven't seen Susana. That's a pitcher who was in low A ball throwing 105 or something like that at the time. He says, but they're going to hit on Woods and Hassel, and Mackenzie Gore's represented by Boris. He didn't pitch the year that they got him because he had been hurt and they didn't want to push him. If they were somewhere else in the standings, he would have pitched. But he's in the rotation. Abrams has a chance to be a star player. James Wood is a total stud. This is like the next Aaron Judge, but a left-handed hitter. He's 6'7". He hasn't filled out yet. His home runs are Titanic shots, and he can play anywhere in the outfield. Sound familiar?
Interesting.
So, that's what the Nationals got. Then you're able to draft Dylan Cruz with the second pick this past June, and everyone thinks he's going to be in the big leagues sometime this year. Wood, Cruz, Hassel, another first-round pick they got from the Padres in that deal. He hasn't played all that well, but he's still very young. They got a chance to turn this pretty fast. And as soon as they're close enough, that's when hopefully the ownership situation stabilizes, because the Nats have been up for sale supposedly for the last 2 years.
You want to buy him?
The TV, well, there's a story came out today. One of the guys, one of the interested parties was Ted Leonsis, who owns the Capitals and Wizards and the WNBA team and a bunch of other their video game team league. And he owns the TV network that the Caps and Wizards and the WNBA team are aired on. That was NBC Sports Washington. He owned 1/3 of it. He bought the last 2/3 of it last June and changed it to Monumental Sports Network. So he doesn't want to buy the Nationals and have their games be on Masson, owned by the Orioles. But one of the guys who was going to partner with Leonsis, hedge fund guy, Rubenstein, dropped out of the group. And today's story broke that he's trying to buy the Orioles. So that may help the Nationals situation, depending what happens with the TV rights, because they've been in dispute with the Orioles owners for over 10 years on money that they're owed, which has hampered the Nationals financially. In plus COVID was a killer after winning the World Series, and you had 0 people at the park the next year when you played the 60-game season, and then started with 5,000 people at games in 21. So you had all these people coming to games on credit. So your attendance wasn't even real. And then the Lerner family that owned the Nationals, their family business is commercial real estate. So coming off COVID, that wasn't a good situation either. So that's how they've ended up where they have been. And when the team was aging and they were losing in 21, why they made the trades that they made. And even if they were able, going back to Soto, they made that offer. If they made that offer and he took it, they would be much further in a rebuild from being back to contention than they would be now. They wouldn't be as close as they are now had they been able to sign Soto and not gotten any prospects to replenish a farm system that was not being able to deliver players.
Well, I just want to let you know before we let you go. Tell Leonsis he should be hiring us. I mean, we are as good as anybody.
And he's got a new network, man. He needs programming.
What's wrong with him? I mean, you got connections, man. You better tell him about us. Job already was telling us it's the best show he's ever been on. Job says he actually told us he was going to give us 20 minutes on the show. And then all of a sudden he's on for an hour and a half hanging out with us and enjoying it. I mean, I don't know what he was drinking, but he was enjoying himself, let me tell you. And I had a lot of fun with Job. Job is a guy that I have a lot of respect for. He was very honest. He threw everybody under the bus. He didn't give a crap. And he says, if somebody has a problem with that, they can come and speak to me. So I respect a player of his stature, a person that is very well respected around the league still to this day, that he doesn't hold back on what he said, and he took responsibility for certain games and certain specific points of his career where he could have been better. And that's something that you respect from a guy, not a guy that sits there and says, hey, you know what? I was one of the best pitchers in the league at one point, but you know what? It was Brian Cashman's fault, and it was Hal Steinbrenner's fault, and it was that lady sitting in eating a hamburger over there in the audience, and right by the dugout. I mean, he didn't blame anybody. He took his responsibility. He said, you know what? This is the game, and I'm a better person now. I'm a better father, and I have an understanding of what I am as a person moving forward in my career, so in my life. So I respect Jabba Chamberlain. He's one of those guys that you have to sit back and understand what he went through as a player. He was not respected enough by the Yankees to give him a specific role where he could have really become that player that everybody thought he was going to be. So
he's not the only one that happens. That happens when they're trying to, make judgments on talent and try and fit a guy into a role that he'd be best at, as opposed to what the role they think he should be in for the club. God, let me ask you guys a question. Being that Speedy's standing there with Citi Field behind him.
Well, he's not standing. He's sitting, actually. He's very high off the ground. But, he was
It
very
looks like he's standing.
I want to just let you know something. Speedy gave us some really good information at my birthday over this year.
False information.
It was great. It was really great. And I want to know what your opinion is. This kid over here.
Tell lies.
This is not a lie. You can
lies.
ask Jabba Chamberlain. I'll put him on one day, and you can ask him. This kid actually had the audacity to tell me he was drinking the whole night, and I was wondering where he was, and he was dancing. Yes, he said that he had to go and take a dump, and he decided to go to the toilet because he was winded to take the dump instead of throwing up. And he is going to lie to people that he was winded, and that's why he was trying to find a toilet.
And the real story, Charlie.
That's not true.
Charlie, here's the real
true.
story. So the real story is I was dancing for a while. Then I was his friends were dancing more. And I was trying to just finish my drink. And then I was just going to get my wallet, get water. And then his friend all of a sudden tells me we're going to another place out of nowhere. This place that is like 45 minutes away from where we are.
Hold on one second. You said you were winded. That's why you had to take a dump.
That was after.
Who is winded and has to take a dump? I've never heard
normal
this
people
before.
that lose stamina after dancing.
So you're winded.
So you're this freak athlete.
I'm winded right now. My voice is winded right now. I got to go take a dump right now. I'll be 20 minutes on a
10
toilet.
minutes later.
Come on, Speedy. That doesn't make sense. Just tell the truth. You were throwing up.
I was
and you didn't want to.
No, I wasn't.
God, you see this, Charlie? I just try to be honest with you. This guy, what kind of person is winded and sits on a toilet and takes a dump? I mean, seriously, it doesn't make sense. It's ludicrous. Anyways,
I wouldn't have danced in the other place if I was sick.
Taking a dump doesn't make you sick, does it?
If I was sick, I would not have danced in the other place. But move on. Charlie, I'm sorry you're exposed to his lies.
I definitely didn't expect this line of conversation.
That is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. I've never heard anything like that. Oh, I'm winded. I'm going to take a dump now. 20 minutes later, I'm like, where is he? I'll be out in a few minutes. I'm like, Speedy, it's 20 minutes. If you're taking a dump, wipe your damn ass and let's go. I thought he was throwing up. He tells me he was winded. So I guess he was sitting on a toilet bowl trying to catch a breath or something. I should have.
Let me ask you guys a question, being that you're in New York. I, spent a good chunk of my life there.
Yes, you're a New York native.
New York native, yes.
I didn't say it that way. I said New York. But if you want to say New York, I'm a New York native. I'm Charlie Slows.
I'm from Yonkers.
I'm from Yonkers.
Yonkers.
Yonkers. Speedy, are you a Yonker? Do you like yonking? Do you know what a yonk is? Okay, well, there you go.
But anyway, how much of a factor in the Yankees making a decision, go out and get Soto, even with 1 year, when now you're battling for the back page the whole baseball season, and the headlines that the Mets, even though it didn't work out for the Mets, they kind of owned the back pages the last couple of years with the new owner, and when they brought in Scherzer and Verlander. Of course, it blew up on them and they abandoned ship amazingly in the middle of the year, and you're paying these guys a huge chunk of their salaries to pitch for other teams while you get a couple of their prospects. Totally unbelievable. No one could see that coming in a million years. But, I wonder if the Yankees just got to the point. You mentioned earlier the age of Cole, the age of Judge, the age of Stanton, and just the atmosphere at Yankee Stadium. This, you know what? We're falling behind the Mets in our own town. We're not the Yankees of what we remember when we were young, when George was there, and there wasn't anybody he wouldn't go after. I was with Tampa Bay doing games. You know how the Yankees ended up with Jose Canseco? If you remember Canseco.
Steroids in his ass?
The Rays went after that whole thing with the hit show. They had McGriff and Greg Vaughn and Vinny Castilla and then Canseco, and the whole thing blew up because they all got hurt. And the second year Canseco was with the Rays, this is back when you had waivers in August, where a team put the guy on waivers. If you put a claim in, they could pull him back and work a trade. And Steinbrenner would always put in a claim on guys so that like the Red Sox wouldn't be able to get him, or whoever they were contending with in the division. No, put in the claim so they don't get him, even though we don't want him. And the Rays just said, guess what? You can have him. You don't have that anymore. But the Yankees were always adding whoever the star player was that became available during the season. And it just didn't they haven't grabbed the headlines that way in recent years. And, this is a big headline. And but do you think how many Yankee fans really care that Soto might only be there for 1 year if they get this 1 year and they think they can win?
I think the Yankee fans already believe that the Yankees will be able to re-sign him. The Yankees never in their minds, the cocky. I'm a Yankee fan. The way they think and the cockiness of the organization and who the Steinbrenner family is. I think the Yankee fan believes no matter what happens this year, great season, bad season, the Yankees will pay him. He will stay with the Yankees because it is the New York Yankees. And he knows with the endorsements that he is going to bring in, he's going to make a hell of a lot more money in New York than anywhere else. And that's why
I would agree with that. But I still think that this wasn't a Cashman type deal.
No, it wasn't.
He has been adamant about trying to build their farm system back up and have their prospects reach the big leagues.
Boy, he's done a great job of that, by the way. Thank you.
He hasn't he hasn't made any kind of deal like this in a long time. And really, when you think about it, the last time they made a deal of any magnitude like this was trading for Stanton, which ended up being an albatross around their necks. That deal
they didn't give up anything for Stanton. They didn't.
No, they took the money, which just makes him untradeable. There's no one who will take him and take that money.
And I don't even think he played 101 games last year. He still hit 24 home runs. He still hit 60 RBIs. I still think Stanton with this lineup, you're going to see his numbers much.
If he can stay on the field. I mean, the biggest criticism last year was that game where he got thrown out by 20 feet at home plate and he was jogging. What they've never come out and said was that the reason he was jogging is because they told him not to run. They didn't want him to run more than 70% because they wanted to keep him playing. So they didn't want him to go all out 100% on the base. You don't think he could run faster than he did on that play? The third base coach should have stopped him.
Listen, I think Aaron Boone can run faster than Giancarlo Stanton.
I think he can. I think he's better than that. I mean, Boone said over the last.
I like Giancarlo Stanton. I still think he's one of the best power hitters in baseball.
Right. Boone said that he's working to really get his legs into better shape so that he.
Let's hope. I mean, he's got an upper body that every woman wants to grab, and he has got a lower body that every man wants to kick over. So thank you. Thank you, my friend. I want to talk. We will speak off air. I love what you do, man. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. You're a mentor of mine, a guy that is very well respected around baseball and throughout basketball as well. So, Charlie, Tell your son he better be listening, and he should be writing down and taking tips on this conversation. And you are a fantastic interview, as always. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, guys. Good to see you.
Charlie Slows, everybody. Play-by-play broadcaster for the Nationals. And by the way, he liked the Soto move. The question is Soto going to stay a Yankee? Speedy, he's not going to be winded like you and taking dumps every single day, okay? That's not going to happen. Soto is a different type of beast, and not the beast that comes out the wrong way. Okay. All right, Speedy. Before we make our picks and finish the show, I do want to get into the Josh Giddey thing because we never, ever in 2 weeks got into this story.
Thanks, Mikey C.
Yes. Thank you, Mikey C, for making me sick to my stomach and making me want to throw up. And by the way, he wasn't fully right, but the Yankees did have to trade Michael King. Yep. But he thinks, Soto is worth it. Well, we'll see if he's worth it. The Newport Beach Police Department is investigating Thunder Point guard Josh Giddey for having a relationship with a minor. They also added that they don't know if Giddey has any ties to the city or county, being that he is from Australia. There was a deleted post on social media last week of Giddey, 2 weeks ago, Giddey having a relationship with 16-year-old high school junior. TMZ reports that the family of the young girl are refusing to cooperate with law enforcement. The NBA has been investigating photos and videos of this incident, but Giddey was still playing for the Thunder on Tuesday and is expected to play tonight or last week. Giddey is 21 years old and averaging 12 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, 4.5 assists per game this season. As Charlie said about the shortstop for the Tampa Bay Rays, I almost said Devil Rays again. His career could very much be over because of it. But here's the problem. Tampa just gave him a big-time contract. Oh, yeah. So either they're going to eat it, which they're not. I do believe he will play baseball again. He just probably won't be playing with Tampa. This story, okay, here's what I'm going to say. Josh Giddey is 21 years old. When he was probably dating this girl, he was underage. He was 20, and she was 16. Okay, he's been supposedly, what I've been reading, he's been hanging out with this girl for a while. So I understand he's 21 years old and she is a minor. Okay, but you have to also look at his age. He is a young man. He's a young NBA superstar. I believe he's going to be a superstar in this league for many, many years. I don't even think he will be on OKC very much long. I think they're going to trade him because they have a point guard already, and I think he will start somewhere else. It is a story that I still don't understand. I understand the NBA are investigating this, videos, audio, whatever the hell they're trying to get, video on social media. I don't know. I am not a Josh Giddey guy. I don't know the guy personally or what he does on his spare time with underage girls. What I do know is he was dating this girl for at least a year. So he was 20 years old when he started dating this girl. So he was already underage. So the NBA and police, and by the way, the girl's family do not want to press charges on him, which tells me that obviously they were okay with her dating him. Now, I don't know how this story went out or came out. I don't. I know TMZ loves to report stupid things and like to throw people on the bus and hurt these guys' careers. I feel bad for Josh Giddey. I do, because this is a guy that's going to be dealing with this now, probably for the rest of his career. I don't think he's going to get in trouble. I don't. I think the NBA, if they were going to do something, they would have done something already. Yep. So I think this is going to be thrown under the bus. But the fact that law enforcement got involved with this, who ratted him out? Who came out and threw this kid under the bus? It wasn't her family, because they have already said that they don't want to cooperate with law enforcement, which tells me they're okay with it. So why is this a story? And this is a problem with professional sports. This is a problem when I sit here and I try to figure out what is the point of it. Okay. And here's the thing. Everybody's trying all these different, and I was watching something. I don't know if anybody has checked this out on Netflix. I watched Harry and Meghan. Okay. If you don't know who Prince Harry is, he is he's the Duke of Essex, and so is Meghan. She's an American, African-American descent, who is now, she was practically pushed out of England because the royal family didn't want her there, and now she's raising her family here in the United States in LA. And why I'm bringing this story up is because the tabloids pushed her out of England. She was trying to be a perfect duchess and tried to really change the way people looked at the royal family. And the royal family obviously didn't want her there and treated her with so much disrespect. They reported things that were untrue about her, threw her to the wolves, and eventually made Harry make a decision. And that was to move her out of the UK and move her to the States, where she is more protected and respected around her peers. Now I'm going to the Josh Giddey situation. Josh Giddey is not a prince or princess. He is an NBA player. He's a youngster. He is still a kid in mind. He's with a big man's body. He is 6'8", 6'9". I understand that he's in front and he's the everything for when it comes to attention. He is an NBA player, and a kid, kids buy his jerseys and want to see this guy play, he's a face for some of these youngsters that are playing fantasy sports or whatever the hell they're doing.
That's in Australia.
Yes,
So.
And by the way, he's one of very few Australian players in the NBA. I am worried for the future when it comes to not just press. Reporters have affected not only the game, when it comes to the NBA, NHL, or anything, any professional sports. Reporters have hurt the growth of any industry. They think that by telling sobbing stories, fake stories, and throwing people under the bus because they want to make money, because they can make millions off of a story, they think that that's the right thing to do. That's the perfect thing to do, when it really is affecting these kids, these players that could turn into, or even princes or princesses, these people that could help benefit the world for the better. I don't understand this. This doesn't make any sense. I think the NBA need to figure out how to protect their players. I'll say this. LeBron James runs the league. Okay, whatever LeBron James says goes. Okay, LeBron James says to jump, he's going to have Adam Silver jump. Adam Silver does not know how to control a league. Okay, he should have taken the Disney job when he got offered it. I don't understand the NBA for what it is today. I think it's one of the worst organizations run professional sports. It is $1 billion organization, and their players are so popular on social media. I feel bad for Josh Giddey. I really do. I hope this doesn't affect him and his growth as a player. I do believe that if Giddey knew this to be bad, he would have never continued doing it.
Right. And I think that's what you'll look at when you see the town. Like, he's only training there. He doesn't live there normally. He lives obviously in OKC, and he grew up in Australia too. Yep. And that's the one thing that makes it interesting, because the California consent law is 18. So he technically violated that, but didn't know. But you wonder, maybe that kind of thing is legal in Australia. We were discussing that with the Wanda Franco.
He was also, he said he was dating the girl for a while. So
right.
He was 20. So he was underage. Mm-hmm. He was right there. So if he's 20 and he's not 21, it's legal. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden he turns 21 and she's still 16. It's not legal anymore. That doesn't make sense. And that's why the parents aren't pressing or obviously going to the law and trying to get the law involved with it. There's a reason for this.
Right. And I think the difference also with the Wander Franco incident too is there was definitely some violent behavior being done there. Like you were saying at the time, there were like 5 different girls too at the time, all different ages too. And again, the international crossover even makes it trickier too. Like you were talking about, like the press could definitely twist it, especially going country to country too. I think there was a scandal with an Australian swimmer or something like that in the Olympics too that ended up getting wrongly reported too. So sometimes when you have the international crossover going from TMZ, which is big entertainment here in the US, reporting, and what you have in Australia, it definitely could create a fishy situation. Now, the family did hire these top-notch lawyers apparently, so maybe they're a little suspicious, but you're right. They definitely don't trust the law enforcement, and maybe the incidents could be a lot more wrong than we think too. So it's definitely tough to tell.
Families just they hired all these different lawyers because they want the law enforcement and everybody, the press, to leave them alone.
Right.
They don't want anything. Obviously, they're okay with Josh Giddey dating their daughter. Right. So if they weren't, they would have pressed charges on him.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of what the action actually is to be able to know that. Maybe it's something they could.
And this has been going on for 4 weeks. And if something was going to happen and they were going to press charges, we would have heard something about it. Mm-hmm. It's now kind of like swept under the rug. So it's a horrible thing when you look at all these reporters. They're making TMZ's making millions and millions of dollars because they're the ones that are selling and buying these stories, videos and footage and audio. They're making money on these deals. And now you're sitting here and you're wondering, is this the right way moving forward, the way the world works? And I think it's horrible. I think it's disgusting. And you see what's going on in Israel right now with Hamas and everything like that. And it's disgusting what we're dealing with. There's so many things that we should be worried about right now. Why is the press bringing up stories that honestly have no really business being brought up? I don't think
without
it's
a lot of information.
No, it's just not a story. It's dumb. It's a stupid story. If it was something bad, she would have complained and she would have said that, obviously she didn't want this or he was forcing it. There was nothing. There's nothing that came out on that in that area. So I think it's despicable. I think the league needs to figure this out and protect the players more. All right, Speedy. Let's go through our picks of the week quick, and then we'll go.
All righty. So you had the Steelers tonight or the Patriots?
I have the Patriots.
All right, I had the Steelers, so I guess we'll see how that plays out. All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons at Atlanta. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here. I think the Falcons are still kind of like a one-dimensional type team. They haven't shown much in the passing game, and I think if you have to beat Tampa, you have to attack them through the air. The Bucs have a good run defense. Give me the Buccaneers.
I'm going to go with the Falcons. They need this win. They're at home. Give me Atlanta on the money line.
All right, LA Rams and the Baltimore Ravens. I agree with Derek. I think this is going to be an absolute blowout. I think the Rams are due for one of these bad games defensively. They struggle against the run. Give me the Ravens.
I have the Ravens. They're at home. They don't really lose at home. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be maybe flurrying. It's going to be cold. It's the battle of the running games. Even though I like Williams, give me the Ravens on the money line.
Lions and the Bears in Chicago. Close matchup in the first one. I think it'll be similarly close in this one. The Bears defense has played better. Lower scoring, but give me the Lions in a close one.
Absolute blowout, ladies and gentlemen. Even though I'm going to take the Lions on the money line, I think this is going to be a blowout for the 9-3 Lions.
All right, the Colts and the Bengals. I'm going to agree with Wes on this one. I'm going to take the Colts. I trust their defense a lot more right now. The Bengals defense, not great in the secondary, and the Colts, Gardner Minshew's showing something. Give me Indianapolis.
I want to pick the Bengals. They played very well. Their young quarterback actually showed up last week. It was Thursday Night Football. It was also against a crappy team. I think the Colts are actually a good team, very well coached, as we see. I like the Colts in this game. Give me the Colts on the money line.
All right, the Jags at the Browns. Trevor Lawrence, not sure if he's going to play yet. Apparently,
thank God he's healthy, man. Yeah. I mean, thank God he's okay. That looked really bad last week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they can adjust in this game if he does play or not. But I'm going to go with the Browns, though. I think their defense is still going to be very tough. Jacksonville's defense has exposed a couple leaks in recent weeks that I think Cleveland can expose. Give me the Browns.
All right. If Trevor Lawrence plays, I have the Jaguars on the money line. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't play, I have the Browns. So either or. Okay. You can go either way. But Trevor Lawrence plays, they're definitely going to win. They'll beat the Browns, and they need this game. Trevor Lawrence was one quarter away from getting this team to the number 1 seed. This would have been the number 1 seed in the AFC if they won last week. Trevor Lawrence got hurt. They lose the game against the Bengals, and there she blows. So that's where I'm going.
All right, Panthers at the Saints. I got the Saints in a close low scoring.
I've got the Saints. Carolina stinks.
Yep. All right, the Texans and the Jets. I think we're both on Houston on that one.
No question.
Okay, and then the Vikings and the Raiders. Give me Minnesota. I think it'll be closer than expected, though. The Raiders defense playing well in recent weeks.
It's in Vegas. Give me the Raiders. I love what I see with the Raiders. O'Connell's not much of a quarterback, but they're going to be able to run the ball against this Vikings. Dobbs showed me, especially eliminating me from my Pick'em league. Thank you, Dobbs. You stink. I hate you. I'm just kidding. I've got Vegas.
All right, Seattle at San Francisco. Seattle's been just bad offensively recently with all the injuries.
I think this is a surprise.
I think this will be close. I think the Seahawks will cover the spread 10.5. I think it'll be close in the beginning, but I think the Niners pull away in the second half.
I'm going to go with the Niners, but I'm going to tell you guys this right now. If you're a betting man and you want to make some money this weekend, go with Seattle.
All right. The Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Originally, I was going to pick the Bills here, but I was with Wes. I just don't know if I can see the Chiefs losing back-to-back. So give me the Chiefs in a tight one, really close.
I've got the Chiefs. Back-to-back losses with Buffalo at home. I don't see it again. This isn't the same Buffalo Bills, and they're going to probably fire their coach. So give me the Chiefs.
All right, the Broncos and the Chargers, another tight one. I think this will be kind of a middle scoring game. Broncos defense playing better. I'm going to take them.
I'm going to go with the Broncos as Bill Belichick's Chargers. We'll be back next year.
All right, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one. They tend to split with the Eagles a lot, and their defense is just a little more trustworthy. The Eagles showing some leaks in recent weeks.
I just want to piss off the beef. Okay? And so I'm going to take the Cowboys because I think Dak is the MVP of the league. I want to see them win so I can tell the Beeve that he's a moron. For him to think that Dak Prescott's the reason why this team loses every single week when they when they do lose because, oh, he hasn't beaten anybody good. Whatever you say, Beeve. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, Titans and the Dolphins. Give me the Dolphins, even though I think Tennessee's done well stopping the run.
Yeah, I'm going with the Dolphins. The Dolphins are explosive in many different ways. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball, and they can make love to Speedy when he's winded. I'm going with the Dolphins.
All right, and the Packers and the Giants. I think the Giants' defense actually keeps it close. They've played well in recent weeks, but I think Jordan Love has been good in the fourth quarter. Give me the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going with the Packers. I mean, the Giants can't win any more games if they want to get a top quarterback or whatever the hell they want in the draft. Maybe go after a wide receiver, which they have no weapons on the outside, but either do the Jets. So I don't know what's going on with them. So give me the Packers. I think they will win. I think it'll be very close. I think the Giants will have a chance to win this game. Oh, yeah. Give me Tommy DeVito. No, I'm just kidding. Daniel Jones will probably play this week. So maybe the Giants win, but I'm going to go with the Packers. Right. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are our picks. Where are we at anyway, Speedy?
I am. I think you gained a game on me last week, so it looks like I'm up by 3. You're ahead in the weekend crunch one, but I'm up by this one.
Watch me blow this away, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a big week for me, and I'm going to tell Speedy to sit on it. That's what I'm going to do. Right, Speedy? Are you going to sit on it?
I don't know what I'm sitting on, but okay. Besides a chair. I'm sitting on a chair.
Well, you're winded, so we can feed you some water. Yeah, you want a little bit of water? I've been drinking a lot of water, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, I am filling up with some water. If you need some water from me, I can give you some, but I'm going to have to wait until I go. So anyways, thank you to all the fans out there that tune into our show every single week. Thank you to Russell Baxter, Pro Football Guru. Check him out. I mean, this guy is the man. As always, he gave us a really good interview. By the way, thank you to our friend Nationals Radio play-by-play broadcaster Charlie Slows for joining us. Fantastic. Thank you to Wes and Derek for giving us your winners. Hopefully you don't sleep on it. If you do, Speedy might be a little winded, so they can send you something. I don't know. Anyways, thank you to all the fans out there, all the people downloading our show, and even our network, all the people that have been downloading our shows on the Worldwide Sports Radio, podcast, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you to everybody tuning in and listening to us and backing us up with everything that we do. We give you hopefully a show that really stands out from all the rest. Thank you to all the fans out there downloading our show by ourselves on Sports Loudmouth. I will say something before we go, and it means a lot to me. All these years, all the time that we put into this, all the stories that we break and the craziness and everything, this network wouldn't be what it is today without Speedy Petey. So I don't really give him as much credit on air because he knows how I feel about it. This is a guy that works 24 hours a day on the network, does his work, doesn't complain, does everything that he's supposed to do for me and everybody else on this network over the years. And for anybody that knows where this network has gone over the years, and everybody that knows where this network should go in the future, and our show go, and opportunities obviously opening up, he's one of the main reasons why it's been there. So, Speedy, I know I mess around with you and I piss you off, and I get under your skin, which I do that to everybody. You are the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, and I appreciate all the work that you put into and all the craziness that you have to deal with me.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of craziness
on and off the
I do
air.
appreciate that.
Yes, well, I listen. I got to give you credit when credit's due, and Jamie Lee. Hopefully, you're listening or finishing up. Hopefully, Butch and you are resting in front of the fire, enjoying each other, and the Beeve enjoying his wood and getting ready to build his dam for the winter.
Is the dam going to have a poster that says Dak Prescott stinks outside?
For Jeff, hopefully you're drinking and eating, and hopefully soon you will take your boat out and sink to the bottom of the ocean. And it's snug. Hopefully you and your cats enjoy that cupcake that you ate last night and the night before, and hopefully you don't have high blood pressure and wind up having diabetes. So thank you to all the fans out there. Mikey C for pissing me off last week, and I wouldn't say being right, but pissing me off even worse. And really, everybody, I hope everybody enjoys our show. I really try to give you the best in me. I've been sick over the last couple of weeks. I come out here, I give you everything. I'm always 100%. I give you everything in me, and I still to this day will continue doing that because the fans deserve it. I don't care what anybody thinks of me, and if you hate me, you love me. I hope you hate me, but if you love me, good. If you hate me, thank you. And also for all the guys on our network, Josh Silverberg, obviously his partner, Mr. Eric Roll, Moto. What do we call him?
Eric Bow.
Well, yeah, whatever. We call him Eric Bow. But thank you to Eric Bow. Thank you to Trey. Thank you to our guys over there with the herd. Everybody. Thank you to Chaz. Thank you to Wes. Everybody that has taken this, and all the guys that have been in and out of our network that have moved on in their careers. Thank you to all of you guys. I don't hate you guys. I respect everything that you guys have done in your careers and continue doing. So that's it. I think that's pretty good. And I'm doing it because we're going into the new year, and I might forget. So I don't want to miss out on obviously saying and feeling the way I feel. And I'm a little winded now, and I might have to go to the bathroom. So as Speedy has taught me, when you're winded, go spend 20 minutes on a toilet. Anyways, thank you again. And thank you to Tommy for doing our social media. He will be in the new year doing our sports minute for the sports loudmouth and everything that he has done so far since he's come here and interning, and not only being an intern, working with us for the future. I appreciate you too, Tommy. Tommy Scoop. Or Scoops. That's his new name. We're going to call him Scoops. Speedy, are you scooping some ice cream up for me for later?
No.
What kind of ice cream do you like, Speedy?
I'm not scooping any ice cream.
But what kind of ice cream do you like?
My favorite is anything involving peanut butter chocolate.
You like Rocky Road?
Yeah.
I don't like Rocky Road. Okay. So if I buy Rocky Road, I'll make sure that you take the cube away. Okay? Is that okay?
Cube?
The cube. I call it the cube.
What?
The pint.
I never heard the term cube. Okay.
Well, listen, man, I'm going to teach you some things. I've taught you a lot. I'll teach you some more. And hopefully, after you're done eating the pint of ice cream or whatever the hell you're going to eat, you go to the bathroom. And when you let go of your bowels, you remember what I've done for you. Anyways, thank you to the fans. Listen to the Weekend Crunch on 103.9 FM. If you don't live in New York, at 10:30 after the Island game, listen to our pregame show. It means Speedy Petey before the Islander game, which I think the Islander game is at 7:30. So at 7 o'clock, listen to our pregame show. It is a great show. We will get into the Islanders. Thank you to the Islanders and 103.9 for letting us do that. Thank you to all the fans out there on 103.9. If you don't live in Long Island, check us out on iHeartRadio on 103.9 FM, LI News Radio at 10:30 p.m. when we crunch out or crunch in all the sports talk of the week into one show, 2 hours with me and Mr. Windbag himself, Speedy Petey. Good night, everybody.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.